The salty squid, deep from the blackest pit. The salty squid, at a sword tip, forced to submit. The salty squid, deep from the blackest pit. The salty squid, at a sword tip, forced to submit to the salty squid.
Hola, what's going on, y'all? Welcome. Happy Veterans Day. Hope it's going well for you. It has not gone super well for me. I worked today. I didn't take the day off. Who cares about fucking Veterans Day, you know? But it's a meaningless holiday. Americans don't really give a shit about veterans most of the year. And then one day a year they pretend to actually give a shit. And they say thank you for your service, not knowing what that even means, or what that service was for, or any of the things behind it. So I don't really care about Veterans Day that much. I didn't go get any discount on pancakes or nothing like that. I just went to work, came home, and now I'm going to yap into this mic, because it's better than screaming at the wall, I guess. I did scream at my steering wheel today. That was a thing. But it felt good. I needed to get that energy out of me. And I'm hopefully able to pour some of that energy into this. Because there's going to be plenty of horrors to look at. All the horrors. The first horror on the list is the demented elderly man sitting in the White House. He spoke in front of some veterans, apparently. I haven't heard it yet, but we're going to check it out. Also, welcome to the stream, Dispel, Marketable Streams. Buddy, thank you for being here.
And so it's with great pride that I am introducing a man who is proud of our veterans, who fight.
Nobody cares about you, you sweaty couch fucker. Get to the real guy with the juice.
Thank you very much to our great Vice President. That was a good decision I made. This morning on these hallowed grounds where generations of American heroes rest in eternal glory, we gather to fulfill the sacred duty of every free man and woman. On Veterans Day, we honor those who have worn the uniform, who have borne the battle, who have stood to watch, and whose ranks have formed the mighty wall of flesh.
It's been 2 minutes, or 2 seconds even, and he's already said something incoherent. But I'm trying to blow up this shit, and it's not working. Why is it not working? It's a little small for my liking. Let's see. Stand by, chat. Here, listen to some chill vibes while you wait. There you go, chat. That's for you. If it works. This is what happens when you're a socialist, chat, and you have a socialist computer set up. There's no money here to be seen. Everything's breaking down. That's alright. We'll kill that music. What else can we kill? Okay, so that's not even the right window then. What is happening? Boom. There we go. That's better. We did it, chat. We figured it out. Okay. We got his big ugly mug up there. I knew we could do it.
Flesh and blood, bravery and devotion that has defended our freedom for 250 years. Today, to every veteran, we love our veterans. We say
We love our veterans.
Too often left unsaid. Thank you for your service. Thank you very much.
Oh boy, his hair in that wind it's doing its best, but it's not enough. And thank you for your service, Donald Trump, to this country. Thank you for bringing down the American empire and soon ending the imperial power around the world that we have reigned terror.
And we want to also say thank you for carrying America's fate on your strong, very broad, and proud shoulders. Each of you has earned the respect and the gratitude of our entire nation. We love you, we salute you, and we will never forget what you have done to keep America safe, sovereign, and free. Thank you very much.
You know what? That was nice. That was way better than the speech that Obama gave to the veterans on the plane. If you saw that, that filled me with joy. I'm not gonna lie.
And we're also honored to be joined by a great man. He will go down as a great man someday. Speaker Mike Johnson. Speaker. Wherever you may be, Speaker. We love you, Speaker. There he is, right there. Good. Got a good location. He always gets a good location. And congratulations to you and to John and to everybody on a very big victory. We're opening up our country. Should have never been closed. Should have never been closed.
Yeah, should have never been closed because the Democrats did nothing in the end. It was a big fucking jerk session, and they gave up. So you think that Trump in a year is going to negotiate anything? Dude, that shit's gonna get kicked out of the House so fucking fast. You guys are so foolish. They need to get Schumer out. Pelosi's already leaving, but they need to get all of these old guard Democrats out of the fucking system. I hope that AOC primaries Schumer, and he just fucking quits and retires in shame. Cause this shit is fucking pathetic, bro. Like, these people need an actual opposition, and nobody in power right now has any guts or any will to do anything about it. I hope Hakeem Jeffries gets fucking ousted too. I hope they all get ousted. You know what? Clean house. We need a clean house.
I want to thank Secretary Doug Collins, who's outstanding, just done a fantastic job for the veterans. We have a 92% approval rating. We took that up from 38% from a certain previous administration.
Okay, now he's just fucking hallucinating. This is just the world that exists only in his head. Because no shot does he have a 92% approval rating anywhere. Everything I've seen on his approval rating lately has been abysmal, underwater, close to his lowest ratings he's ever had.
Administration that we won't mention. Also, Secretary of War. We like the sound of that better than the other. Secretary Pete Hegseth. Pete, thank you very much. Thank you, Pete. Great job. Our great Attorney General, Pam Bondi. Pam, thank you very much. Thank you. Secretary Doug Burgum. Doug, thank you. Thank you very much for being here, Doug. The #1 energy person anywhere in the world. Acknowledge. I was amazed that he took the job. But he did it without hesitation. What he gave up, what Doug gave up, what all of them gave up, nobody would ever know. But Secretary Chris Wright, #1 anywhere in the world, acknowledge. And drill, baby, drill, Chris, right? Drill, baby, drill. The energy prices are way down, and they're going further. Secretary Linda McMahon, education, moving education back to the states, Linda, right? Getting it back to the states where it belongs. Secretary Lori Chavez DeReamer, thank you, Laurie, very much. Director Russ Vogt, Director, thank you. What a good job he's doing. Cutting, but fairly cutting. Director Tulsi Gabbard, thank you, Director. Ambassador Jamieson Greer, what a job he's done. We've taken in trillions of dollars in tariffs, and we want to keep it that way.
I can't wait till all of these fucking names are listed on a conviction. That's all I'm saying.
It's been good for our country, I can tell you, including national security. General Dan Kane. General, thank you. He's a real general. And congratulations on wiping out the nuclear capability of Iran in about a matter of seconds once they got there. They traveled.
Wasn't the story that they got their nuclear material out before the strike, or at least a good amount of it? I don't think that succeeded. I think you did some damage. You made a big boom. Good job. But I don't think that we should be committing war crimes and, attacking other nations' nuclear sites. It seems like a declaration of war to me without really saying it. But if somebody attacked my nuclear sites in America, I think that we would respond as if it was a declaration of war. But who cares? We're also blowing up boats in Venezuela so that we can start another illegal war and send more children to die needlessly.
A total of 37 hours. But once they got there, they were very quick. And also to many other very distinguished guests. We have an amazing group of people. I'd like to name every one of you, but I think a lot of people would be upset. It's a little cold. The pages of American history are filled with the tales of titans, icons, innovators, and trailblazers who built this country into the greatest, most ambitious, and most prosperous nation the world has ever seen, and we brought it to new levels. I'll tell you, we were going in a direction for a period of time, but we've never been hotter than we are right now. This is the hottest country anywhere in the world. Yet every captain of...
He knows we're entering winter, right? We're not that hot. Also, if you mean metaphorically or rhetorically, we're not hot on the world stage either. We're in our flop era, sweetie. We've never been down so bad on the world stage. What the fuck are you talking about? We're hot right now. Everybody hates us. Nobody wants to buy from us. Canadians don't want to come here. Our fucking tourist industry is dropping off. What?
Of industry, every pioneer of science, and every star whose brilliance has lit up the lights of Broadway, all share one thing in common. They only had the chance to soar because the veterans had the courage to serve. They took care of those people. They took care of all the stars. The stars that you read about wouldn't be here without our veterans. Everything we have, everything our country has achieved has been purchased by the muscle, spine, and steel of the United States military.
That's facts. When he says spine, I did sacrifice my spine on the altar of freedom. And I would like it back, please, because that was a fucking shit deal.
We owe it all to the fierce and noble men and women of the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, Space Force.
Space Force!
And the United States Marines. Here's a guy. Our service members, our own words, are the greatest possible tribute to their immortal valor. Shortly before the Battle of Bull Run, Major Sullivan Ballou of Rhode Island became a big name, didn't he? Wrote to his dear wife, Sarah. He said, "I know how great a debt we owe to those who went before us," he said. "And I'm willing, perfectly willing, darling, to lay down all my joys of this life to help maintain this government and to pay that debt." Just 1 week later, Major Ballou did just that. He gave his life to save our country. On the night before he jumped into the dark skies over Normandy on D-Day, Colonel Bull Wolverton knelt with his men in prayer. "Dear God," he said, "we ask only this, that if we die, we must die, and we as men would die without complaining, without pleading, and safe in the feeling that we have done our best for what we believed was right. We must do what is right." Colonel Wolverton, too, died for us so bravely in battle. Today, we remember with overwhelming gratitude the more than 1 million American service members who have made the supreme sacrifice and laid down their lives.
Yeah, and the shitty part is I know people who have died in the service. I wasn't a combat vet, but I still had friends that were, and I had friends that I knew at the Navy hospital that got really messed up in combat and came back, that were Marines that just ended up at the Navy hospital because the Marines are a subsidy of the Navy. And those guys did not die or get injured for the things that this man promotes, which are anti-constitutional. They would openly say that they served for the First Amendment so that you can have the right to burn a flag. Not that I agree with burning flags. I'm not going to burn a flag. It's not my form of protest, but you have the right to do it, and that's part of the reason I served and many other people served that gave a lot more than I did.
For the good old USA. Generation after generation, America's warriors have left behind the comforts of home and family to face violence, evil, and death so that our families could know joy, goodness, and peace. We honor them so strongly. Our heroes have lived through unthinkable nightmares so we could live the American dream, and the American dream is coming back again, stronger than ever before, and you'll see that as the next few years evolve. They have volunteered to give their last breaths to all of us so that we could breathe free. And today we know without any doubt in our hearts that after 2.5 centuries, America stands tall.
After 2.5 centuries, we've breathed free long enough. We're going to invade the Amazon. We're going to take the whole trees, all of them, everything. We're taking all of South America. We're going to flip it. It's going to be great.
All because America's veterans stood so strong. And soon our country will be stronger than ever before. The American veteran has forged a legacy of gallantry and daring without parallel in human history. In September 2009, Army Captain William Swenson was driving through the Afghan mountains when his convoy was ambushed by over 60 Taliban insurgents. He and his comrades were pinned down for hours without artillery or air support. A fellow soldier was shot in the chest, and Captain Swenson crossed an open field to aid his brother in arms. People said, "Don't do it, Captain, don't do it." He did it.
The story sucks,
And
bro.
for his actions, that
I mean, I'm sure it's
shows
cool,
the
but you telling it is awful.
Medal of the American veteran is Dale Stovall. As an Air Force helicopter pilot in Vietnam, Captain Stovall was assigned to rescue a downed American airman deep in hostile territory. Despite the extreme peril, Captain Stovall took off in his HH-53C helicopter and soon came under intense fire, forcing him to turn back. But the captain...
Like, Bone Spurs here only... You dodged Vietnam, motherfucker. You only like the aesthetics of the military, which a lot of fucking civilians do. That's why you have all these right-wing dudes that fucking dress up like they're in the military when they never have been, because they want to LARP as the military. They want to project the strength and all the shit that the military brings without ever having any of the discipline or any of the honor code or any other shit that goes along with being in the military. This motherfucker doesn't care about his oath to office. He violates it all the fucking... Every day he violates it.
refused to abandon his mission. The next day, he willingly plunged back into the danger while taking fire from all directions. He didn't have a chance, he felt, but he said, "I got to do it." He rescued the downed American pilot who had been stranded on the ground for 23 days and brought him back home alive, completing the deepest rescue behind enemy lines in the entire Vietnam War. For this and 11 other harrowing rescues, he was a brave guy. Dale received the famous Air Force Cross and the Distinguished Flying Cross and 2 Silver Stars, making him the 4th most combat decorated Air Force Academy grad of all time.
I was trying to speed this motherfucker up, but apparently I can't.
He retired as a brigadier general after 31 years of service. General Stovall, you are a legend. Please, thank you. General Stovall. Thank you very much. Thank you. You look good, General. You look, I wish I looked that good.
Sorry about the green flash, chat. I don't know what's going on there. I've been trying to figure that out for a while. So, if anybody's got any more suggestions, I've tried updating my HDMI cords, but if you got any other suggestions.
You look good. Thank you very much, General. America's warriors never quit, never surrender. They fight, 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 and they Win, win, win. That's what we do. We win battles. As you know, today is not only Veterans Day, but it's my proclamation that we are now going to be saying and calling Victory Day for World War I. Victory Day. You know, I was recently at an event and I saw France was celebrating Victory Day, but we didn't. And I saw France was celebrating another Victory Day for World War II. And other countries were celebrating. They were all celebrating. We're the one that won the wars. And I said, from now on, we're going to say victory.
I mean, to say that we won the wars is kind of lacking in any history and tact. We won against Japan, sure. We made Japan surrender with some nukes, but to say we won all of World War II and that nobody else won, I don't know about that. Russia did a lot against the Nazis, so I don't think this man knows anything though.
Victory Day for World War I and World War II, and we could do for plenty of other wars, but we'll start with those two. Maybe someday somebody else will add a couple of more because we won a lot of good ones, but
I can't believe France, who was occupied during World War II, would be celebrating. Those fucking weirdos.
when I see other countries celebrating Victory Day, I watched it. I watched UK, I watched Russia. They were celebrating Victory Day, World War II. And I said, we got to have a Victory Day. Nobody even talked about it in our country. But from now on, we're going to be celebrating Victory Day for World War I, for World War II, and frankly, for everything else. Under the Trump administration, we're restoring the pride and the winning spirit of the United States military. That's why we have officially renamed the Department of Defense back to the original name, Department of War. And remember, we won World War I, we won World War II, we won everything in between, we won everything that came before.
We won everything in between. We won Vietnam, guys. You hear that? We actually won. We're gonna rewrite that history and say that Vietnam was a success and a victory. We won Afghanistan, Iraq. It was all a big win. We got the WMDs. We defeated the terrorists. We did it all. We're everything. America, America forever. USA, USA, USA.
And then we immediately decided to change the name of this great thing that we all created together, and we became politically correct. We don't like being politically correct, so we're not going to be politically correct anymore. From now on, when we fight a war, we only fight for one reason: to win. We fight to win.
From now on, when we fight the wars, we're going for complete annihilation. We're building more nukes. We're bringing the nukes back, people. We're going for complete annihilation, just like when we won in World War II.
That under my leadership, we're also fighting for the great veterans who have always, always been there for us, and especially when we needed them and needed them most. In 9 months, the Trump administration has cut the backlog of VA benefit claims in half. That's a big achievement, and Doug is going to get it down to zero.
Yeah, let's talk about how you've completely gutted the fucking Veterans Administration, which used to be a great resource for veterans' health and was rated with like 96% favorability by veterans who used it. Great health system for a long time. Had some issues in the past, but recently, in the 2010s, it was pretty good. Now it's completely ruined because now they're outsourcing everything. So I tried to get a mental health appointment just to talk to a therapist, to talk about, the nation's burning around me, the Constitution, everybody, Americans that I thought, had some core beliefs don't have those beliefs. It's flipping things around in my head. Just want to talk to somebody about it. They send me to an out of third-party resource who is only doing video appointments. And then when I actually sign up for an appointment with a therapist through them, the first session, they don't show up for 7 minutes and then tell me that their video recording system is down and has been for a while, so they can't do anything. And then I eventually stopped going and they killed my referral. That is the new VA healthcare system. I did not get any healthcare in that situation. I'm sure I'm not the only one experiencing these horrors in the new Trump admin VA.
During the Biden administration, the backlog exploded like we had never seen before, and I'm going to eliminate 100% of that backlog. We're moving at that pace, and already we've processed more than 3 million backlog claims, the most of any year in the history.
You can't believe a single number that this man says because he brings random fucking numbers into everything. He's brought in $22 trillion to the nation. He's put this amount of money toward. He just makes up things and doesn't have any back. We've gone through 3 million backlog. I want to see the receipts, motherfucker. Show me the receipts.
History of the VA, we've added more than 1 million extra service hours across the VA centers, and we've opened 20 new facilities in 13 states, something that people said just not possible to do. We also have brought back VA choice and VA accountability, taken away by the Biden administration, so that when you have to wait online, you go out and you get yourself a doctor. We pay for the doctor if you have to wait. And the other thing is we fired thousands of people who didn't take care of our great veterans. They were sadists, they were sick people, they were thieves, they were everything you want to name, and we got rid of over 9,000 of them. And then when Biden came in, he hired...
The man who enjoys watching suffering more than anybody else is calling VA workers sadist. You're so creepy, brother.
Them back, many of them, but we got rid of them. And I think we got rid of them permanently. We replaced them with people who love our veterans, not people who are sick people. We're also confronting the challenge of veterans' homelessness, and earlier this year I signed an order establishing the National Center for Warrior Independence to house up to 6,000 veterans in need, and we will not stop until we have ended the tragedy of homeless veterans once and for all. I'd see in New York where people that came into our country illegally.
Salty, have you considered watching content that doesn't make you completely miserable? No flame. No, my name is Salty for a fucking reason. I must maintain the salt, okay? Everything is awful. All the time, 24. No, I do watch content that doesn't make me sad. I just don't usually do it on stream. I could watch some non-sad content on stream. Usually that time is spent gaming though. If I'm not going over politics, and politics is always sad these days, man. I don't know what to tell you.
They came in illegally, would be put up in hotels, and veterans would be sitting on the sidewalk outside of that hotel where these other people are put in. And many of the people that came in were put in from prisons. They were murderers. They were drug dealers.
Okay, so let's stop outsourcing all of our fucking jobs to other countries because it's cheaper and hire veterans to do it. When I got hip surgery and I had to get disability from the state, I went to the state office to look for somebody to help me with my disability claim, and they informed me that there is no longer an office there. They cut all those jobs, cut the entire office, and now it is totally a phone chain that takes you to a call center in India. Where you have to give your social security number, your name, your address, all this personal information in order to file your disability claim in the United States. And that's fucking weird, especially when we have so many people that need jobs. And I don't know if you've heard the job numbers. Oh, wait, nobody's heard the job numbers recently because Trump fired that lady, and now everything that comes out is fucking cooked.
There were people that we didn't want in our country. They were staying in hotels, luxury hotels, and our veterans were sitting on the sidewalks watching them go in. I said, that's never going to happen under this administration. I also signed the VA Home Loan Program Reform Act because no veteran should be kicked out of their home for what they call a late payment. It's not happening. And I'm pleased to report that since January, the veterans' unemployment rate has fallen by more than 26%. That's amazing. Work hard on that. And I also want to give a very special thanks to all of the veteran service organizations that work so hard. They're all represented here today, but they work so hard on behalf of our great veterans. And one of the heroes who reminds us of why we fight for those who served in uniform is Army Major and West Point grad Jonathan Turnbull. In 2019, Jonathan was conducting an operation in Syria when a suicide bomber approached and detonated his vest, leaving Jonathan gravely wounded, so badly wounded they thought he had no chance. The injuries were so severe the doctors gave him, everybody, they just looked, they all cried. They knew him, they loved him, and they were just crying. They said, no chance. He was resuscitated 3 separate times and he underwent 22 surgeries, but he refused to give up. He wanted to live. He loved this country. He loved his family. He wanted to live. He was going through hell.
It's unfair that this man can be so evil and such a piece of shit and destroy the country and be a traitorous weirdo and still be funny sometimes. Like, that's fucking unfair. Cosmically unfair that he can still be funny. But for him to say the doctors and crying and they look and they said, no chance. Brother, stop it. Stop it.
I visited Jonathan at Walter Reed in 2020, remembered so well, and today I'm delighted to say that Jonathan is not only alive, he is here with us, back on his feet, and living a great life alongside his beautiful wife, Samantha, and their 3 incredible children. Jonathan, Samantha, please, God bless you. God bless you. Thank you. Where are you? There he is. There he is. Beautiful. Thank you very much. When duty called, when Almighty God asked,
oh, Jesus,
who had the will and the strength to defend the land of the free, each and every American veteran stood up and said, here I am, send me, here I am. They've come from every corner of this nation.
This is a time to remind everybody that 65% of veterans voted for this motherfucker, which is a huge problem. I hope that number has changed. I don't know what poll to look at to even care. As a veteran, I don't answer polls. I don't trust polls. I'm not going to answer your call if you're calling me for a poll. I'm not going to text you back. I'm not going to answer your email. So I don't know how many other veterans are answering polls, but I would like to know that number.
From the cornfields of Iowa to the hills and valleys of California, from the steel towns of Pennsylvania to the vast plains of Texas, from the banks of the mighty Mississippi to the 5 boroughs of New York City, with selfless commitment and unyielding conviction.
You don't get to talk about New York City anymore, Donald. You have been exiled from New York, okay? Your businesses are not welcome, and it is under communist control now. So you need to just back the fuck up and stay the hell out of New York, okay? Okay.
They made themselves America's ramparts and became the shield between our homeland and those who would do us harm. With everything they had, they did one thing above all else. They put America first.
We went after those who would do us harm, which is why we went after the country mainly involved in 9/11, right? Saudi Arabia is our best friend. That's right. I forgot. Shit.
On the decks of destroyers, beneath the thunder of cannon fire, in the cockpits of our beautiful B-2 bombers. Aren't they beautiful? Now
You know what's beautiful? When they fucking fall off the front of ships, when you're dropping them into the ocean, making goddamn reefs. It's great. That's where I want my tax money to go, actually, is to just drop all the F-18s off the front of fucking ships.
Respect them so much. What a job they did. That in an instant completely obliterated Iran's nuclear capability, of which
Nuclear
we just
capability.
ordered, I have to say, many
This man needs some denture glue. Them shits is not holding up through this whole speech.
more of the updated versions of that incredible piece of art. They defended the American Republic, dispensed American justice, crushed the enemies of freedom, and vanquished the forces of wickedness and evil. And that's what we've been doing. Because of what every veteran has done today, the flame of liberty shines bright. The people of our nation sleep safe. The American dream surges forward. And our magnificent destiny stands more splendid and glorious than ever before.
That's fake news, chat. We've never been down so bad. It's gonna be terrible. Hold on to your seats.
So I want to say thank you once again to every American veteran. You are very, very special people and always in our heart. And thank you very much, and God bless you, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.
Well, that was fucking horrible. How about some right infighting? Let's go! Marjorie Taylor Greene is woke now, I think. Or maybe.
Earlier today, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is a big ally of yours, said that she would rather see you focused on nonstop domestic policy meetings here at the White House instead of nonstop foreign policy meetings. What's your response to her saying that, and also saying that grocery prices are up and not down, as you've said?
Yeah, so I don't know what happened to Marjorie. She's a nice woman, but I don't know what happened. She's lost her way, I think. But I have to view...
She got the woke mind virus, brother. You've lost her. She's on our side now. She is part of the Borg. She will be part of the Communist Union.
The presidency as a worldwide situation, not locally. I mean, we could have a world that's on fire where wars come to our shores very easily if you had a bad president. We had a horrible president, and we ended up with Russia, Ukraine, and we ended up with other disasters, too. Don't forget, I put out 8 wars, 9 to come. I think I'll get the other one taken care of, but I put out 8 wars. And look at the damage.
By year 3, is it just going to be, I solved 27 wars. Yeah, there's wars all over that were going to happen, but luckily, because of me, I solved them all, and they're not a problem. It's huge, it's great.
That Russia, Ukraine has done to us as a country. I mean, we spent $350 billion. We're not spending any money anymore. Now they pay us through NATO. You know, I got NATO to go from 2% to 5%. Well, that's very important. When you're president, you really sort of have to watch over the world because you're going to be dragged into it. Otherwise, you're going to be dragged into a world war. I think if I weren't president, first of all, that war would have never happened if I was president. And if I weren't president, that war could have led to World War III. It won't. It's not going to anymore. But when I first got in, I said, wow, this situation could lead to World War III. And I got NATO together. I got everybody together. But with all of that,
the world inside of this man's head is so fucking fascinating, horrifying, but fascinating. You can't stop looking at it like an eldritch horror, you know? It's like, holy shit, what the fuck? But also, wow, that's crazy, man.
I passed a great, big, beautiful bill, which is the biggest tax cuts in the history of our country. So when somebody like...
Which, that big, bass, beautiful bitch bill is gonna fucking gut so many red states and so much health care from his supporters and people that need assistance. It's really gonna hurt his supporters and elderly people, the people that need health care and assistance the most, and it's pretty sick. He's just going to sacrifice so many people to give billionaires more money, because that's what they need is more money. Fucking Elon Musk needs to get $1 trillion. Bezos needs to catch up. Everybody else needs... It's just... Yeah.
Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's now catering to the other side. I don't know what, I guess she's, got some kind of an act going, but I'm surprised at her.
That was Trump lashing out at Marjorie Taylor Greene, given her continued attack.
I don't care what you have to say, Brian. I'm going to be honest. I like your content, thank you, but... What's woke mommy got?
Election in 2024, and they gave us full control. The White House, the House, and the Senate. And to me, that means something. It means something on such a deep level that I take that responsibility very serious. And I'm deeply angry. I'm deeply disappointed.
That's right. All right, Marge, MTJ, come on, or MTG, come over to the dark side, okay? It's gonna be great. We'll do a whole why I left the right thing. We'll have your space lasers on our side of the battlefield. It'll be pretty sick. I'm excited.
I'm actually to a level of pure disgust that we are wasting the opportunity that we have and not solving the problems. And the problems they're big, but I think we have this one-time chance and it's being thrown away. And so I do understand the, oh, screw the government, leave it shut down, we don't care. But I also look at it and I'm like, well, we got to fix Obamacare because that totally screwed everyone's health insurance. Social Security is literally going to be insolvent in less than 10 years. We should be fixing that. And those are just two examples. And I'm so
Chat, you're never going to get to retire and you're never getting Social Security, so just accept that.
angry at my own party. And I'm angry at all the men in leadership in the House and the Senate. And I'm like, you guys are weak and pathetic.
Oh my God. Feminist queen, Marjorie Taylor Greene. She is coming over, chat. She caught the woke mind virus. She is on our side. I feel it. She's got it in her soul. Just come on over, baby. It's going to be great.
So that is my viewpoint, because I'm a business owner, and I think of these are our customers, and we have a responsibility to serve our customers, and we have a responsibility to take care of our employees. And then I also am a mom, and I think you always take care of your children no matter what. You go.
Chat, are we Marjorie Taylor Greene fans now? Oh my God, she's woke princess now.
Above and beyond to take care of your kids and make sure they're safe, make sure they're, everything about it is good for them and their future. And I'll just tell you, I'm beyond pissed off at my own party and the leadership in the House and the Senate that they are totally blowing it.
And to allow Democrats to have some sort of moral high ground on this issue because they're the only ones talking about it, I think is a major failure from the Republican Party. And I'm not going to stand there and just keep talking the talking points when my own adult children can hardly afford health insurance premiums, when everyone in my district, it's the #1 issue that I hear about day in and day out, not just people.
Yo, she's like 2 steps from like healthcare is a human right and we need to make the health insurance companies go away. Oh my God, it's happening, chat. It's so happening.
On the ACA, but people that have private insurance as well. And I think it's something that we have to talk about. And I don't see why the government needs to be shut down. I really don't. I believe that if Republicans learn to govern and wield power, they can use the nuclear option in the Senate. They can open up the government. We can get back to work for the American people, and Republicans can solve this problem that is a very big problem that we can't ignore.
And the reason for this is because even to her, it is abundantly clear.
Body is to build consensus around
Thanks,
it.
Brian. I love you.
We have to do that, and that's what we've been planning to do all along. It was never possible or appropriate to have this decided on a CR, a simple stopgap funding measure for 7 weeks, a clean continuing resolution. The Democrats know that, and they are not being truthful about it. And take Whip Clark's words for it. They shut the government down, and they're using hardworking American families who she says will suffer, and they know it, as leverage.
And the Democrats are just letting this motherfucker win and take the entire narrative. And who do you think the American people are going to be mad at now? Not only are the right and the middle going to be mad at the Democrats, but all of the Democrats and leftists are going to be mad at the Democrats for fucking caving. I don't know if their approval rating can get much lower than it already is, but get them out. Vote new people in. It's just so frustrating that so many of them are protected by not having upcoming elections. We need to have ways to rescind their election or their seat if they go wildly off board, which I feel like the Democrats have.
For this political game.
If it takes a long time to build consensus, why not bring the House back to talk about the plan that you say you have to fix health care?
Because the House has done its job. The House passed the CR. We did it over a month ago. And we need Chuck Schumer and the Democrats to do what they have always done. They did it 13 times during the Biden administration, 13 times. And Chuck Schumer did it most recently 7 or 8 months ago in March of this year. And he gave an impassioned speech on the floor and said, that's the only possible outcome. You could never possibly shut the government down because it would be dangerous and it would hurt real Americans.
That was weeks ago, and yet here we are this week, and surprise, surprise, still no plan. Just like there has never been a plan, despite Trump promising since 2016.
Okay. Yeah, sorry. Thanks, Brian. Love your commentary, but we gotta go. It's time for more right infighting. This time it's Ben Shapiro versus Nick Fuentes, which is a horrible battle that I hope everybody loses in. Can they all lose? Can everybody lose?
The success of the Mamdani administration.
Oh, but first we have to go do some hyperbole about Zoran Mamdani. Oh shit, I can't get caught not saying his name right. That's crazy. Zoran Mamdani. We gotta slander his name a little bit and call him a communist and say how he's gonna ruin New York. So we'll get through that, and then we'll get to the Nick Fuentes, Tucker Carlson implosion.
Relies on him not being able to do anything that he says he's going to do. You haven't held a real job your entire life. Your entire life. I have a more successful rap career. Zoran Mamdani.
Can we skip the intro? Yeah, I don't. Who are these guys? I don't know who these guys are.
They said was a problem is still a problem when they're done. And then people say, well, you didn't solve the problem. I'm going to give the other guy a shot to solve the problem. And I think that you're seeing that particularly with young voters. There's been a lot of talk about this is the most right-wing young and then it'll be like, no, this is the most left-wing young generation. And all that can be true if you're just kind of shifting side to side. And so the fact that everyone's flattering Mamdani by saying, well, he did talk a lot about affordability. And what I keep saying to people is, well, affordability is not like Beetlejuice, where if you just say it over and over, it suddenly arrives. You actually have to pursue policies that are likely to alleviate an affordability problem. But if your solution is always give me more power, and it does seem like that is the solution of the day from both sides, actually, then you're likely to just continue penduluming one side to the other. Because people don't want to learn the actual lesson, which is if you actually want affordability, then either you have to change policies or change locations. Those are
Yes, and in order to change policies, you have to have representatives that actually represent the people and their will and their needs, which we do not. Right now we have bot politicians that serve corporations and PACs, and they don't serve the people. They don't do things that are in our interest. They do things that are in the interest of making them more money and making their donors more money. We need to get rid of Citizens United. It is one of the worst mistakes this country has ever made legislatively, giving corporations that much power in our political system, and it's just disgusting.
They're really the only two things. And also, I think more broadly, it's not about affordability. We have trained an entire generation of people to believe that if their lives are not what they want them to be, it's the fault of systems, as opposed to decisions that are in their own control. And politicians absolutely have a stake in selling that. A lot of people in our industry have a stake in selling that. It makes people feel good about themselves and bad about the world. And the reality is, if you want a better life, you should feel better about the world and worse about yourself until you actually, go do the right things.
I broadly, generally speaking, as a matter of principle, agree with you. But I mean, I was looking around at property prices, real estate prices in New York. I'm doing pretty well for myself. I feel kind of poor looking at those things.
Oh, no, it's unaffordable. And I'm not saying it's not affordable.
Right.
It absolutely is unaffordable. And if you wanted to make a political difference, what you would do is you would relieve the building regulations. You would make it easier for people to build, not harder. You wouldn't rent control, because if you stop rent controlling, then that creates incentive for people to build. You would allow people to build up further. You would get rid of many of the code regulations that are kind of antiquated. Like there are things you actually could do. And then if you're a young person and you can't afford to live here, then maybe you should not live here. I mean, that is a real thing. Yeah, I know that we've now grown up in a society that says that.
Yeah, New York is for the rich only, okay? Kids, you gotta get the fuck out until you get some moolah. Come back when you got some capital.
You deserve to live where you grew up. But the reality is that the history of America is almost literally the opposite of that. The history of America is you go to a place where there is opportunity. And if the opportunities are limited here and they're not changing, then you really should try to think about other places where you have better opportunities. again, that's not saying that public policy can't change. I think it can, but I think that the solutions.
Or we could address wealth stagnation, which has been since, I believe, the 70s or 80s. We haven't gone up in wages in anywhere near the amount that we've gone up in productivity. Somebody doing my job in the 80s or 90s was far less productive than I am today, with the amount of things I produce for my company using a computer just makes me far more efficient. All of the things that we have in modern technology and modern life that make us better and more productive, we're not getting paid in a way that is relative to that. But it doesn't matter. We're all going to fucking lose to AI.
Being offered are untenable.
Well, I sort of see the problem with what you're saying is that really doesn't sound nearly as good as free stuff.
Correct. The third grade presidential campaign continues to win. It's undefeated, right? Free ice cream, free busing, free childcare, and free money paid for by somebody else. Well, what's likely to happen if Mamdani were to get his way? And he's not going. I think that the success of the Mamdani administration relies on him not being able to do anything that he says he's going to do. If those things happen that he wants to happen, he's going to empty out the city. It'll destroy the city. If he doesn't get those things, then it'll be really pleasant for him politically. He'll be able to blame the system for not being able to get done what he wants to get done. So the problems will stay the problems, but he'll just rail against the city. He'll be a perennial outsider, even as mayor.
Isn't that?
I mean, I don't doubt that he's not going to be able to do everything he's promised in his campaign. Very few people accomplish everything that they promise or seek to do with their campaign. But I do believe that he will get some things done and move the needle in a positive direction for socialists, which is going to move much more in a positive direction economically at this point than anything that the Republicans or the right are doing.
The default position of populism, where if you're saying that the problem are the elites and you can't get things done because of the elites, that just strengthens your position, doesn't it?
100%. Absolutely. I mean, and then you say, if only I were given more power, I could do this. And then you don't do it. And you say, well, because I needed more power. Like, if you'd just given me more power, that would have been awesome. One of the things I find really amusing about Mamdani, in kind of a cynical way, is.
You know, the thing is, the reason the 50s and everybody looks back to that point and says it was so great and so affordable and you could have one dad with one job and have a two-story house with kids and a wife and everybody be taken care of financially. The reason that was so great and was that opportunity was able to come is because we had a fucking 92 to 95% tax rate on the top earners in this country. Now they have so many tax loopholes that they pay a lower effective tax rate than I do as a citizen. So it's disgusting. We need to tax these motherfuckers. There should be no billionaires. You don't need $1 billion. You can't spend that money. You're not spending that money to make the world a better place. If I had $1 billion, there would be no homeless veterans. There would be no dog shelter. You know, I would be doing good things in the world, but none of these cretins want to do anything good with their money, at least not the majority of them. Bezos certainly doesn't. Elon certainly doesn't. They just want to hoard the wealth, which is disgusting. I think they're actually dragons.
When he does this, the coalition of the dispossessed, we're all going to come together, those of us with the bruised knuckles. And it's like, my dude, you haven't held a real job your entire life. I have a more successful rap career than Zoran Mamdani. And I'm not even joking, that's true. Right? Like, Zoran Mamdani is a failed rapper. He was a person who didn't hold a real job. He got elected to the assembly and ditched half of his votes. And now he's mayor of New York, having grown up in the lap of luxury in a country to which his parents immigrated. Like, he's been given the best of America. And his solution is America sucks and is terrible. And so now I'm going to quote Eugene Debs and Nehru in my
Hell yeah, New York voted for America sucks and is terrible, brother. That's what happened, actually.
Inauguration speech, in my victory speech, which is what he did. Which, you know, again, that's a take, but it just underscores one of the sort of fascinating things about revolutionary movements. Is they're very rarely led by members of the proletariat. They're very often led by, I would say, unsatisfied members of the bourgeoisie who then decide they must be the vanguard of the proletariat.
And it's so interesting.
I mean, that's very true. That's not untrue. And we're going to see that in America, probably, is once the fucking elites can't get jobs, once the graduates out of Harvard and all these places, people with engineering degrees and doctors, when they can't find jobs, that's when the revolution's going to kick off. It's not when the poor people get poorer. It's when the elites can't get their fucking treats.
Interesting, the young people's obsession with socialism. Having seen socialism be implemented in Venezuela and then it being championed and lionized by particularly people of the British left, the Jeremy Corbyns of the world, etc., etc. And I've given up trying to explain the evils of socialism and communism to young people because I had a friend, a Cuban friend, who said, Francis, it's like a magic trick. And until you see the reveal, you ain't going to get the trick. And you need to see the reveal. And that's kind of what it's like, isn't it?
I think that's right, because it's so unthinkable. Like, if you say to people, well, look at Venezuela. So, well, it's not going to be like Venezuela here. Are you kidding? Like, how? Like, how?
We're seeing the reveal of end-stage capitalism right now, brother. Nothing's affordable. Nobody can get a home. Everybody has a gig job. The economy's not doing great, in case you hadn't noticed. Like, you can shit on socialism all you want, but the capitalist system right now, not doing so hot for us.
And the reality is it happens pretty suddenly. It's like the transition from, democratic capitalism to socialism, it does happen very quickly. I mean, once the government has the power to do these things, they do implement them very fast. And so what was unthinkable becomes suddenly just reality. And so most Americans also don't understand how it is that we became wealthy. They don't understand how we became a very prosperous country. They tend...
You know what? Venezuela, socialism, bad. You're right, Ben. What's better is when you have Argentinian libertarianism, and we just send them $40 billion to burn. That's way better. I love that. That's what my tax money's going to, burning in Argentina and putting F-35s off the front of Navy ships into the water. I love it. Oh, and harassing the American people with ICE. My taxes are going to good use, people. I love it.
Tend to think that how things are is the natural state of being. That wealth and prosperity and the nice things we have and these great new products every year and being able to order things on Amazon, like that's why, one of my favorite comedy routines is Louis C.K. has this whole comedy routine about people complaining about flying in planes.
You would be a Louis C.K. fan, you fucking cretin.
Where he's like, we're all complaining, oh, it's just terrible, the conditions. Like, your grandparents would have had to travel for 3 months to get from point A to point B, and you're doing it in 6 hours in a magical machine that flies in the sky. And you're sitting here complaining about that. And that's kind of human nature. Is what you see in your daily life is what you accept as the norm. And we do have these things called, airplanes that actively are time machines. You can fly to other places on Earth that don't have the things that we have.
Not recently, Ben. Recently, you can't fly anywhere or get on a fucking plane because all of the air traffic controllers are retiring or quitting or don't want to fucking work in this system. Flight is not great right now. I don't know if you know that.
We have. And you can look at the systems they've implemented, and you can see why they don't have those things. But everybody who's growing up, listen, we're a spoiled society. Everybody who's been growing up, with all of this nice stuff, we think that that's the norm and that there's no way that norm is ever going to go away, and that's not true.
Well, look, I agree with you broadly in principle. However, when you talk about your grandparents, yes, our grandparents would be amazed by the smartphone and all of the other things you talk about. But our grandparents also could raise a family of 4 on a single income, have a house, have a car, and have a middle-class life.
So I think that there are a few things that are slightly a misnomer about that. So I think that, number one, your grandparents, depending on when they grew up, in, say, the 30s, actually couldn't. I mean, your grandparents were dirt poor if they grew up in the Great Depression in the 1930s. That was a very, very bad decade. Sure. And then if they lived...
Yeah, and what caused the Great Depression, Ben? Was it the Roaring 20s and the crazy wealth inequality and crazy speculation in the stock market? Kind of the same shit that's happening right now? Oh, boy.
Lived from 1941 to 45 in this country, then your grandfather was likely to be being shot at in either Europe or the Pacific. So those are rough years, turning those into sort of the golden age of what it was like to live years. So when people talk about this, what they're really talking about is a fairly short period of American history that existed essentially between the end of World War II and economically the rise of the rest of the world. When the rest of the world...
Yeah, and who was the manufacturer of the economic times? Was it FDR? I think it was FDR. Yeah, it was FDR.
It was basically in ruins. And so America could send a bunch of money to Europe and then produce all the products here because literally there was no industrial base anywhere else on planet Earth. They'd all been destroyed by World War II. And then you could work one income and you could still do that. That was actually not the way that virtually all work was done in the United States ever. I mean, if you go back to the 1910s or the 1900s, when this was largely an agricultural society, mom was working on the farm, right? And when you're talking about problems of, for example, industrial labor, women were working in factories. And so this kind of brief period in American history, which was actually sort of an outlier in terms of all world history, and treating that as like the norm is not true. Second of all, the housing affordability crisis, the average house in the United States is significantly nicer, significantly larger, with central air. If you looked at the house that your grandparents were living in 1952, you would say this place is a box. This place is bad.
Yeah, but they're all owned by corporations now that rent them out. They're not owned by the grandparents. Your grandparents cashed out, man. They sold their home that they bought in like 1952 for 10 cents. They cashed out on their million. They're done with that shit. Corporations bought up everything. I'm glad I got myself a house. Chat, you're fucked.
And if you look at the job that your grandparents were working in 1953 at the Ford factory, you sitting in your comfortable office, your air-conditioned office, complaining about your sciatica from your uncomfortable office chair, and then you're like, oh man, I'm really longing for those days of riveting. That is not an easy job. And by the way, it's not because we shipped it overseas, because machines do it now. And so, again, this is not to say everything is perfect.
It's both, Ben. It's both. We've both shipped jobs overseas, and we have machines replacing jobs here at home. It's both. Both things can be true, sir.
Because it isn't. But I think that having a false picture of the economic past leads to bad conclusions about the economic present that are not supportable by the actual data.
You make good points. I guess what I'm saying as well is, like, if you look at the other candidates in this election that Mamdani's just won, you did not have the same level of speaking to people's concerns about some of those issues.
I agree. I mean,
I don't know about that. Okay, the Slee Warriors out here for Sliwa. Yeah, we heard him talking about animal rights. He was speaking to us. I don't know what happened and how we got down so bad, but the Slee Warriors, we're gonna rise again. Okay, it's not over. Mamdani may have won this time, but we're coming back strong next time. He didn't get shot by the mob 27 times just to go down like this. Okay, we'll rise again. Curtis will come back.
The empathy sells in politics and also makes for very bad policy. Because as many people have noted, empathy is about the person in front of you and feeling what that person feels. And that's great politically, right? I mean, that's what makes people magic in a room. But when it comes to making a broad public policy, then it's really what is the most effective policy for the greatest number of people. And if you get empathetic about like this individual, you're very likely to make a bad policy that is specifically designated to help this individual at the expense of many other individuals, because anybody who says they're empathetic toward all humanity is lying. I mean, that's usually not true. You're empathetic toward others. It's a little self-serving. And so again, I'll give Mamdani credit for magically shaking the hands of cab drivers and kissing babies and being very, very good at that. But I'm not sure why that makes for good policy in any way, shape, or form.
But would it?
Ben's perspective is that empathy is self-serving. There's no altruism. Everything you do is in some way self-serving. Okay. That's one take to have, brother.
Show is the importance of charisma and how if somebody is charismatic, we've had people on the right, and I talk to people on the right person, they're like, oh, Mamdani's this and he's that. And I'm like, can we just not accept that as a campaign politician, he is 100% undeniable?
He's terrific, particularly in short spurts. So I think the debates, the last couple debates, I didn't think they needed great because he was asked questions and he really couldn't defend himself. But I don't think debates matter anymore because that's not how anybody consumes.
Whatever, bro. He slayed in those debates. I don't know what you're talking about. That's just cope.
Information.
That's right.
Right. The podcast space may be the last space where people consume in long form information, and even there, it's clips from the show that are going to go viral on X, right? And so if you're Zohar Mamdani and you put on what I think is kind of a smarmy grin for 2 hours, but the thing that gets clipped out is 30 seconds of you grinning. 30 seconds of grinning isn't smarmy, it's charming. 2 hours of grinning is rictus-like. And so I think that the shrinking of the attention span and the way people consume information, he's built for that. He's really good at that. You see certain politicians, AOC is terrific at this. Pretending she's not is not going to make her any less terrific at it. She really is very, very good at it. President Trump is really good at it. Right? And if you go to a President Trump rally for like 90 minutes or 2 hours and
He used to be. That boy is losing his touch. He still has a zinger every once in a while, but most of the time, it's just him dementia rambling at this point, and it's horrifying.
kind of rambling. By the end, everybody's like, oh man, this is taking a while. But then you watch it on social media and you're like, man, that's hysterically funny, right? I mean, like those 2 minutes are amazing. And so, the way people consume information is going to determine, who's capable of speaking into that medium.
Talking to Ben Shapiro, you can't help but be reminded that America was built by people who take risks, people who build things from the ground up. That's exactly who this...
America was built by immigrants, which we are currently trying to damn out of this nation. But this nation has always been a nation of immigrants. It's why we have Ellis Island in New York. We've always used immigrants to build this nation. And the fact that we're now somehow anti-immigration is insane to me. I don't know where that came from.
This episode sponsors Next Insurance are for. They are 100% dedicated to small businesses, the builders, the dreamers, and everyone turning ideas into reality. When we started Trigonometry, it was just us. No investors, no safety net.
Okay, we're skipping
so we've
that
got
shit.
This,
we're getting to the good stuff. All right, Nick Fuentes, Tucker Carlson, Civil War, right fight.
Increasingly Democratic Socialist of America movement on the left. I'm sure we'll see more of that as time goes on. We also now are seeing a civil war on the right, which exploded last week in particular over the fact that Tucker Carlson had this white nationalist called Nick Fuentes on his show. And then there is a big debate now going on, in which you're one of the participants, about whether the right should turn a blind eye to the fact that its fringe is becoming increasingly Nazi-ish, or whether there's a break that needs to be made to prevent what happened on the woke left, or rather because of the woke left on the left, where the extremists took over, wore the skin of the entire thing, and then were punished very severely electorally over a period of time. Give us your perspective on that.
Sure. I mean, I've been arguing against this for quite a while. I think that last week was
that was kind of a dense question, brother.
Pretty good sort of indicator that there is a bleed over from a series of terrible ideas into the more mainstream area. The problem is not, of course, that Tucker Carlson, it's a free country. He can interview whomever he damn well pleases. It is not, in fact, cancellation to criticize somebody's interview tactics. And it's not even that he interviewed Fuentes. It's that he proceeded to massage Nick Fuentes. I mean, he treated him with kid gloves. He did not ask him a single difficult question. He did not press him on any of his extraordinary statements about, for example, Tucker's friend Charlie Kirk, or Tucker's friend J.D. Vance, or his wife, or any of that. And he simply brought him on and then proceeded to gloss him. And the fact that was treated in some quarters as sort of normal is, I think, a very serious problem. I think that it's a moral problem because, frankly...
Yeah, you're falling down on the right there, Ben Shapiro, and Nick Fuentes is taking the spotlight, which is crazy. But the other thing that's crazy is that the Democrats, not being anti-Israel, taking AIPAC money, ignoring the will of the people, have allowed the lane for anti-Semites like Nick Fuentes to just open up anti-Israel talking points, and they can be right about being against Israel, but then be getting to that solution from the wrong point, like the wrong math. The math to get to that solution does not math. The math ain't mathin', because the reason to be against Israel is not anti-Semitism and hating Jews. It's because of the war crimes they've committed. It's because of what the government is doing to the people of Gaza, to the Palestinians. The Democrats have completely dropped the ball, completely fumbled the talking points, and allowed Nick Fuentes all the breathing room he wants to be an anti-Semite piece of shit.
I do not think that you ought to be glossing people with terrible views, whether or not they are your friends or whether or not you go fishing together. And as public figures, I think that people have a responsibility to actually say when bad things are happening on your own side. And I also think that, there is an attempt to not only pretend it away, but in some cases embrace it with this sort of no enemies to my right, or our coalition must stand together or we'll lose. And I think that's bad pragmatically. I don't think that's even true. I think that what we've watched here is, everybody's celebrating Zohar Mamdani winning in New York. In New York, okay? Like, this place is 127% Democrat.
In New York, it's just a tiny little place, New York, not that big of a deal. Nobody even cares about... Who goes to New York? Nobody cares about New York. It's a flyover city.
So, it's like when people say, AOC is going to be a national candidate. Maybe she will be, or maybe she won in Brooklyn. And maybe Abigail Spanberger is going to be a better candidate for the Democrats because she ran in Virginia and won. And Virginia seems to be more representative of the body politic, broadly speaking, across America than New York, which is a pretty closed circuit. You know, the idea on the right that if you must gloss Nazis in order to win, if they start to become, if the face of the Republican Party continues to move in a direction that is racialist, that is religiously exclusivist to the extent that it seems to be moving.
But Ben, it's always been that. It's just gone mask off at this point. Like, I can't believe you fell for this and you're on the right. Like, you should have known from the beginning that this is the side that does not have your interests at heart. I'm sorry. You're finding out that everybody on the right are goblins and ghouls, and I'm sorry for you that sucks, but like, you should have known, brother. It's pretty obvious.
If that is the way that the Republican Party decides to play it, that is not electorally sound.
What? Tucker Carlson's a white nationalist? Oh my God. Somebody alert the fucking press.
Strategy, just on a pragmatic level. I don't see, like, these are not, the American people do not like the politics of, say, Nick Fuentes. And the attempt to launder his ideas into the public view, which is what I think Tucker has been doing with a wide variety of rather nefarious characters over the course of the last 2 years. I don't think those laundered views are particularly popular with the American people. And so if the right wants to pretend like, you know, moving in that direction is going to win them additional votes, not the number of votes you're going to lose by moving in this particular direction.
People might say Tucker Carlson's got the biggest conservative platform in America. Isn't that proof that actually these views are very popular?
I mean, they are popular with a certain segment. Are they popular broad scale across America? I mean, I know many ambulatory psychotics who have very large audiences in the online space. I'm not calling Tucker an ambulatory psychotic. I think he's very actually coherent.
I will. You're an ambulatory psychotic, Tucker Carlson.
What he's doing. But I know a lot of people who have a big audience. We should note that every big audience in the media, you're talking about 3-4 million people. The electorate in the United States is generally about 160 million people. And so you can find, you know, it's a big country. You can find a niche for anything. I think one of the mistakes politicians make is they look at X and they say, this is representative of the American body politic. And that is just too online. It's just way too online. I mean, just to take one obvious example.
That's a decent point. Everybody freaks out and pretends like Twitter is representative of the fucking entire nation, but it's not. You all just need to get offline for a little bit. Go outside, have some community, get a hobby, live a life. That's what I do. I'm not eternally online. I have a good life that I can fall back on. I hope that you all have that as well. I have my wife. I have a good job. I have hobbies. I don't spend all my time in chat rooms or online or on Twitter. That shit melts your brain. You shouldn't be doing it. Go outside. Touch some fucking grass. I know it's cliche, but please do it. Go hug a tree before they're all gone.
Tucker Carlson was very much opposed to President Trump's strike on the Iranian nuclear facility and said that it was going to break MAGA. That was a 90-10 proposition in the opposite way for President Trump by all polling data among the Republicans. Republicans were very much pro that. And so, like, but if you'd read Twitter, then you would have gotten precisely the opposite impression. And so I think being too online is one aspect of this for sure.
Ben, but we talk about being too online, and I take your point. However, what is undeniable is that the online world bleeds into the real world.
Absolutely.
Which we saw with wokeism. And partly the reason that wokeism grew so powerful, in my opinion, is a dearth of courage and integrity on the left.
We're so fucking powerful, chat. We're the woke nation. I got the Antifa super soldier serum in my veins, and I'm ready to wokeify. I'm ready to spread the woke mind virus, okay? We're going to bring it back. We're bringing it back, chat.
They saw the extremists run rampant, and nobody was going to say, stood up and went, hang on, this is nonsense, stop doing that. And now I'm seeing the same thing happen on the right with exceptions like people like yourself, and I'm going, are we not just seeing the mirror image of what happened in 2014, 2015?
I mean, I think we are, and it's very, very concerning to me. I mean, I'm encouraged that I think there are a lot of people who have been coming out and saying that this is not appropriate, that this is not something that you can quote unquote side with or unify with, and I think that's good. But I do agree that one of the polarized aspects of American politics is this idea that as long as you're quote unquote on my side, and we don't actually define what on my side means based on, say, principle. We instead define it based on what we supposedly oppose. But even then, we don't necessarily oppose the same things. But we kind of broadly just throw up our hands. They're on my side. They're on my side. And that dynamic leads to polarized sides where, I mean, the future of this, if the more radical wings were to win on the right and the more radical wing continues to win on the left, you end up with an electoral future that looks essentially red versus brown, right? And that's not an electoral future I think that's good for any American, especially because the vast majority of Americans are neither of those things and don't like either of those things.
And look, we can dress it up, oh, they're on my side, but let's talk about what it really is. It's about you not wanting to be ostracized by your own team. It's about you not wanting to lose viewers, followers, influence. So you take the path that is easy for you, but ultimately destructive not only for the conservative movement, but America as a whole.
I mean, I think that is right. I do. And I think that is an easy path to ensuring that you, quote unquote, don't lose people, but I don't think that it's a good path for not losing the country. And I think that if you lose your soul, then you end up losing the country. Again, the things that I've fought for, let's put it this way. I've been doing this for a very long time. I started writing a syndicated column when I was 17 years old. I don't know that there's anybody who's been following me for any period of time who's ever said, whatever happened to the views of that Ben Shapiro? He's really morphed. He's really changed. Well, what happened? Like, I don't get that question ever, but I don't think you could say the same about it.
What do you know? Pinocchio never grew, never learned anything. He just stayed the same fucking views that he was since he was 17. That's crazy. Wild, brother. I couldn't have guessed that.
Tucker. I mean, I think that's one of the most common questions about Tucker. It's like, what changed? What happened? And so I think, that's a relevant question. And pretending that people haven't morphed or that shouldn't have any impact on the public discourse, of course it does. The things that, that's literally our job, is to talk about these issues. And if you talk about the issues in a different way, it seems to me that earns a different response.
One of the people that seems to disagree with, I don't know if this is exactly true, but seems to be based on what I'm reading, is Matt Walsh, who of course is your colleague at the Daily Wire. How are you going to negotiate that situation?
I mean, listen, at the Daily Wire, we have a wide variety of views on a wide variety of subject. Matt is free to have his opinion. I think he's wrong. I'm sure he thinks I'm wrong. And that is what it is. I also noticed that Matt is not glossing Nick Fuentes.
No, he's not. And this is what I was going to ask you about as well. Where does this idea come from? Because, look, I completely agree with you. Anyone is entitled to have anyone on their show that they want. We've invited Nick Fuentes on the show. We would treat him very differently, I think, than Tucker would. We would have a conversation with him and push on some of the things that he's said. We haven't heard anything back. But where does this idea come from that if I say the person you had on your show is someone whose values I don't agree with, and I don't like the way you conducted the interview, that is cancellation?
Yeah, I mean,
when did that happen?
I think it's a really low resolution response to what probably was a low resolution description of cancel.
I mean, you can say what you want about cancel culture. I don't believe in that shit, but I think it's completely fair to look at somebody's interview and say, hey, man, you were fucking weak having that person on. You completely softballed every single question. You didn't hit them with any of these facts that would, put them in a tough position, make them have to answer a hard question. You just kind of let them slide by. That's grimy, and that should be called out. Absolutely.
In the first place. So I think that if you were going to look at sort of the etymology of what happened here, it seems to me that the left shut the Overton window so unbelievably tight that if you said, for example, a man is not a woman, this meant that you had to be socially ostracized. And I think that's what people mean when they say cancellation. The free speech concerns typically are about being banned from platforms. Cancellation is the idea of social ostracism, that you must be invited to the party. And so for a while, it was like you couldn't be invited to any party, or people would attempt to go after your career if you said things that were kind of baseline normalcy. And the response on the right was not let's broaden the Overton window. It was let's eviscerate the Overton window. Now, almost a morally relativistic response. All views are now to be treated as perfectly equivalent. And if you act with scorn at any view, then that must be a form of cancellation. That must be a form of social ostracization that is unjustifiable. And so what you end up with is this sort of bizarre math where the right has taken to the idea that if you get a lot of flack, it's because you're over the target. And also that if you criticize, then that's a form of cancellation, that's a form of social ostracization. Well, if you add those two things together, what you come up with is it is probably better to be a Nazi than to criticize a Nazi. Because if you're a Nazi, then you're taking a lot of flack, which must mean that you're over the target. And if someone criticizes you, then they're engaging in the same sort of politically correct cancellation that the left was engaging in. You must be right, they must be wrong, and they're canceling you, and they're violative of sort of basic First Amendment principles. So I think that's a really low resolution view. I think the argument about cancellation.
I think Ben's foolish in relying on the First Amendment. The people on that side of the spectrum do not care about the Constitution. They don't care about the First Amendment. They don't care about anything as the basis of this country that is good. They want to destroy all of that and make their authoritarian God King emperor that can do whatever the fuck he wants. That's their worldview. They don't believe in freedom and democracy, and everybody has an equal say. I don't know why Ben is leaning on that.
Was not that nobody should ever be socially ostracized. It was that the idea set that was being socially ostracized was a very normie, mainstream set of views. And I'm not a moral relativist. I don't believe all views are equivalently moral or decent or worthy of, or even worthy of response. I think this idea that you're not allowed to have scorn for views that you believe are damaging or deeply immoral, like truly bad. Like, for example, I don't even, not even arguments, just statements. Like, Nick Fuentes calling J.D. Vance's wife a Jeet. Like, that's not an argument. Or that how are you supposed to respond to the argument that he has made, for example, that J.D. Vance is a fat gay race traitor who shouldn't be president of the United States because he's in an intermarriage? Am I allowed to respond to scorn? I feel like scorn is a pretty good response to that, and that doesn't actually deserve.
Well, we'll see how long JD's in that old marriage, okay? He was gripping up on Miss Kirk pretty tight there. I don't know. We'll see. Usha's got some competition.
A debate or a fulsome discussion, and that in fact treating that as though that is a rational idea is a disservice to rationality. But if you treat all forms of that response as cancellation, that's probably how you get to this math.
And of course, one of the other things that happened, and I think the woke left deserves all the scorn and blame for this, is what they've done to words. I see people now saying, well, how dare you call Nick Fuentes a Nazi? I'm going, well, I'm not insulting him. I am describing his views.
Correct. I mean, there's been an attempt, because the left.
Yeah, but honestly, we need to stop using the word Nazi because it's antiquated, and at this point, it just makes people roll their eyes at you. Just call them fascists, because that's what they are. They're fascists. They fit the tenets of fascism. Just drop the Nazi shit, because they're not German. They're not actual Nazis. Some of them are. Don't get me wrong. Some of them wear the full regalia, and they idolize Hitler. All that stuff. But these ones are fascists, and I get Nick Fuentes has had his Hitler moments, but I don't think that he's a full Nazi. I think he's just a fascist and a white nationalist piece of shit. I think there's good distinction there, and we should just stop using Nazi.
Left has overused all of these terms. They've now become meaningless, and that means that when you do that, in the rhetorical space, you actually end up destroying the systemic immunity that people have to bad things.
Exactly.
So if you call everything racist, then the response typically is, okay, nothing's racist. But that's not true. We know that some things are actually racist. If you say that black people are innately inferior, that's racist, right? That's a racist statement.
Woke king.
If I say racist, there's a group of people who will immediately say, well, no, you're just using racist as a club in order to shut down conversation because the left used it in that way. And so a sort of Pavlovian response is developed where if you use a term the way it's properly supposed to be used, then it's treated the same as if you were improperly using the term. So the term itself loses all meaning. And then, I guess we have to re-argue that issue. I mean, I guess that's the idea. But again, some of these are not arguments. Some of these are impulses or emotional outbursts or insults or trollery. And so that's not an honest conversation. That's not a discussion.
Did you know that the biggest threat to your retirement is not something that's talked? We talked about Tucker, and one of the things is quite clear that, as you say, there's been a direction of travel change very significantly since he left Fox and started doing what he's doing. He's hosted a whole number of people that clearly are pushing a particular worldview. I think that's fair to say. What do you think he's up to with that?
I don't like to attribute inauthenticity to people, so I will assume that it's reflective of his actual worldviews. I think that just looking at the guests that he's had and sort of the views that he has laundered, because that seems to be his mode of doing business.
It's almost like Ben Shapiro has never watched a Tucker Carlson segment on Fox and his white nationalist talking points. Fake fan, honestly. I don't think he ever liked Tucker Carlson. This isn't new. Fake fan. He doesn't know any of the lore.
that he very rarely says the thing that he wants to say out loud. A few times he will. Like, for example, in the Fuentes interview, he'll say that Christian Zionists have a brain disease, right? That's him actually saying the thing that he thinks, then sort of trying later to half buy it back as he realized he crossed a politically inconvenient line for him.
I mean, all people I know personally who I've seen like be seized by this brain virus, and they're not Jewish. Most of them are self-described Christians, and then the Christian Zionists who are, well, Christian Zionists. Like, what is that? Right. And I can just say for myself, I dislike them more than anybody, because like, what? Because it's Christian heresy, and I'm offended by that as a Christian.
But mostly what he does is he has on people, and then that's fascinating. That's very interesting. Now, of course, Tucker is perfectly capable of carrying out a very adversarial interview, as he did with, for example, Ted Cruz. And so pretending that he's not doing that thing is, I think, insulting to the intelligence. And the right would not accept it in any other context. If a reporter has on Kamala Harris and asks her 0 difficult questions except how brat she is, then we are rightly going to assume that reporter is...
How, you mean like Joe Rogan with Trump, where he didn't ask him a single hard question?
Kamala Harris, right? And it's not doing their actual journalistic job, and you can sort of intuit views that way. Guest selection is definitely a big one. How you treat your guests is a big one. We can sort of intuit the views. I think that the Tucker's general belief from looking at the way he has done his sort of foreign policy talk is that it's not just that America's overextended, it's that America is a sort of nefarious force in the world, and wherever American support for allies happens, then it must be the result of domestic manipulations, and that the most important thing right now is to essentially go autarkic, to bring, I think this is the most charitable read, to bring, American resources home, to not be involved in the world in any way, and most importantly, that anybody who
semi-based? I mean, I think that we should definitely cool down on the imperialism and bring a lot of our troops home. Stop spending so much on the bloated military. Audit the Pentagon. Give more of that money to the American people rather than exporting it around the world. I think that's cool. The problem with the America First movement is what they want to do with the money and how they want to expel everybody that is not white.
Opposes this agenda is a tool of a foreign agenda, or is a malign actor, which is the thing that differentiates, I think, some of how Tucker does his business from others. I think Tucker is very fond of using emotivism, where he attributes motive to people in order to not even debunk the argument, but simply to just say, they're a bad person, they hate you, they want to hurt your children. And I despise them. I despise them comes up a lot on his show, which I've always found kind of strange. Like, I don't know why that's an argument. Why are your feelings even sort of relevant to the point that you're making? It's a sort of strange political take. I despise. I mean, who cares? And I despise lots of things. I mean, broccoli is not my favorite. Like, of what relevance is this?
Well, it's interesting that you say that. And whenever I hear Tucker, I listen to him. There does seem to be it kind of reminds me of like a failed romantic. He had this romanticized idea of America and what America was. He's now fallen out of love. And like a guy who's gone through his first...
Same, baby girl, same. I've also fallen out of love with America. I mean, shit, I bought all the propaganda growing up and the American exceptionalism and all the good stuff, and that we were a power for democracy. That's part of the reason I joined the fucking military. But I learned real quick that, that was a fucking lie.
This breakup, he looks at his girlfriend and goes, "Oh, she's a massive bitch."
I mean, I think that I think that probably he would agree with that on America's foreign policy. I think he talks about this openly about, for example, the war in Iraq, but I think that he's been critical of pretty much every American foreign policy decision since World War II, including World War II. I mean, really, including World War II, right? I mean, he has on guests who have said repeatedly, not just one, multiple guests who have said that either America took the wrong side in World War II or the true villain of World War II was Winston Churchill. He himself has said, what did Churchill actually gain? Because now London is a terrible place, which is sort of like saying that there's litter in the streets of New York, therefore the Enlightenment was bad. It's like...
Ben, your whole side of the aisle has given up on Enlightenment values. I don't know how you don't see this. I don't know how you have not left the left. You can join Marjorie Taylor Greene. You two can team up together and become woke lefties. Come hug a tree with me. We'll be gay together. It's going to be fantastic. You'll be so much happier.
Clearly, he thinks something went fundamentally wrong with the West around the time that World War II happened. And, you know, why he's saying that and what is the viewpoint that defines that? I think he's sort of left that undefined, so I'll leave that undefined. All I'll say is I think that it's untrue. I think that some of the views, many of the views of the people that he brings on run counter to traditional American conservatism at the very, very least.
Look, the brilliant thing about social media and podcasting is that there's no gatekeepers. The terrible thing about social media and podcasting is there's no gatekeepers. And when you look at people like Tucker and you look at people like Candace, when they were in large organizations and they had to report to people, there were guardrails and they couldn't go off the reservation. Whereas now they can go off the reservation and we've seen what's happened.
I mean, again, I think that it's not even a matter of gatekeepers as much as it is of a willingness to sort of be checked by people and listen to maybe better judgment. Because I think that there's a case to be made that many of the gatekeepers have sucked, and getting rid of some of the gatekeepers was good. But I think that what is required of consumers of information now is significantly more than was required of consumers of information 15, 20 years ago.
You have to be your own gatekeeper now.
Yeah, and most people are not really good at that. It's not even a matter of qualification, it's just they're not very good at it. Because, again, you're consuming information like a fire hose, and it's coming at you on social media from an algorithm that I think is quite perverse in places like X or on Reddit or wherever you are, TikTok. And so unless you are a very informed person to begin with, it's very difficult to know what sources to trust. And
that's, God damn it, Ben. Why you gotta make base takes that I agree with? This is hurting my soul. That's a good point. Media literacy and social media literacy is fucking abysmal in America. But, you know, with the rise of AI and all these new videos that are tricking people, it's not going to get any better. It's going to get to the point where you can't trust shit. You can see a video and not know whether that is truth or if AI made it up, because it's going to get so good at faking shit. But yeah, the misinformation that has been created by Twitter and all these other social media spaces around elections and all this stuff, it's poisoning to the soul. It's poisoning to our political system and our society. I gotta agree with Ben there. God damn it, Ben. Stop making woke takes, okay? You and Marjorie Taylor Greene, you're welcome to come over, but you gotta let me lead. You can't make the woke takes for us, okay?
That's when you get into a bit of confirmation bias. And that's where we get back to sort of the original point that we were making, which is the people who pander most strongly to your sensibilities, which is that you have been wronged by some sort of conspirial coterie of people who are aiming to crush you underfoot. That's a very flattering idea, because then the idea is that you're not responsible for any of your own actions, and that all solutions are just simple if only you had the power to implement them.
And you also get incentive.
Yeah, that's crazy, Ben. It's almost like that's one of the tenets of fascism, is that there is an enemy, an other, that is getting in the way of you having a good life. And if you only excise them, oh my God, your life would be so much better. But it's a trick. It's not. Once you get rid of all the immigrants and all the gay people and all the non-Christians and everybody that bothers you, it's still going to be shitty, brother, because it's still going to be a corporate capital hellhole. Good luck.
Device to create this type of content, because the more of this kind of conspiratorial content, let's just call it that you make, the more likely people are to engage with it, because they're thinking to themselves, oh, this is interesting, this is dangerous, I want to hear what the
a secret's being uncovered. Whenever a secret is being uncovered, that's much more interesting than somebody saying, hey, there's no secret, everybody's bad at their job. which by the way, is actually significantly more accurate. In virtually all circumstances, people are just not good at things who think they were going to be good at things, and then the results are bad. But it's much more sexy if you say, no, there's a nefarious secret. There's a group that meets in secret and they get together just to f*** you. Yeah. Right? That's flattering to your sense of self. It's flattering to your sense of the world. And now you're part of an informed group of people who really know the thing that nobody else knows.
Well, that's very true. And I think another piece, and I wrote about this on my Substack, I don't know if you saw, but it was about what's happened to young men in particular over the last 10, 15 years, where we had this woke period where if you were a straight white man, there was dog shit, and then straight white men a lot of levels below that.
I didn't experience that at all. This is probably just anecdotal, but nobody's ever made me really feel that bad for being a straight white man in the last decade. I've been chilling. And
particularly for a generation who neither created a system where men may have had some advantage, or white people may have had some advantage.
Okay, straight is stretching it. I'm bisexual, but a white man nonetheless, okay? I'm 2 out of the 3. I gotta qualify for some kind of potential here.
Advantage, nor benefited from that. If you were a 15-year-old Zoomer, you were being told the future's female, all men are trash, etc., while actually your life outcomes and the education system, which was overwhelmingly not favorable to people like you that you were going through, you can kind of see why they're angry and resentful.
I mean, I totally agree why they're angry and resentful. And this, again, gets back to a point. Diagnosis is easy. Prognosis and cure is hard.
Yeah.
And so I totally agree that the sort of wokeism of the past 20 years has created, for example, the Fuentes movement. I mean, I talked about that openly on the show on Monday and in the piece that I wrote for the Wall Street Journal, is that basically the sort of woke left idea that white Christian men in particular were the scourge of the earth and thus had to be extirpated from public life, or at least disadvantaged in public life by the sort of Ibram X. Kendi. The only way to fix the injustices of the past is to engage in injustices in the present. Like, I can see why that would drive a sort of white Christian identitarianism. I think that in order for that identitarianism to take place, it can't really be a Christian identitarianism, because Christianity, last I checked, and again, I'll let others who are more expert in this topic than I speak to this, is a system that distinguishes neither Jew from Greek nor slave from master. Right? I mean, the idea is that all are equal it's about individual equality was one of the key functions of Christianity. So you have to come up with kind of a pseudo-Christianity where, certain people are superior to other people. And I think that that's a really negative thing, which is why you've seen some systemic immunity to it among more traditional Christian groups, actually. But I think that the move that you see, it is understandable, but the normal curative to woke should be meritocracy. And that's a hard argument to make.
Meritocracy doesn't exist, Ben, not in this country. It's a fucking myth, okay? I did everything that society told me I should do. Ideally, I went to the military, did that, got my veteran disability benefits and all that fun stuff, got my VA home loan, got my education benefits, used that to go to college and get a degree in science, and you know what? I graduated into a shit economy and a recession, and none of the things that I was told to do to get ahead in life really panned out in getting me that far ahead. I don't make that much more money than if I had just gone to high school and gone into a trade. This economy is shit for people like me. And it's going to be shit for the elites too, because that AI bubble is going to pop, baby.
These days. Right? I mean, again, because meritocracy has an inherent suggestion, which is if you don't succeed, maybe it's at least partially or largely your fault. And that's a very hard sell to people. That's a very hard sell.
Do you think maybe, I don't know if I believe this, I'm doing a Tucker here, but do you think that this might actually be quite a healthy thing for the right, actually, in that you had a kind of anti-woke coalition?
America doesn't run on meritocracy. It runs on popularism and capital. It's how much money do you have and who do you know. That's how you get ahead. It's not about how hard you work. Some of the hardest fucking working people in this country can barely pay their bills. Some of the least fucking hardworking people in this country are living the greatest life you could imagine and make millions of dollars. It's not about meritocracy.
That included a lot of people that maybe didn't really know what it was for. And what's being negotiated now is, what does it mean to be on the right? What does it mean particularly to be a conservative? And what are the principles that you guys actually stand for? And which are the principles that can't be included in that coalition?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the conversation has been ongoing as long as I've been alive, right? I mean, these are battles that were had between traditional conservatives or neocons and realists and isolationists. I mean, these are ongoing battles all the time. But I think that what is fascinating about the current moment is that typically, movements tend to follow leaders. If there's a conservative movement, it turned into a Trump movement. President Trump is non-ideological. President Trump contains multitudes. He has sort of instincts and impulses in many cases rather than a thoroughgoing ideology. And so roiling under the surface of the Trump presidency has been a lot of these divisions for a while. And, I think that there are a lot of people who are planning for the post-Trump era, and they're trying to make moves right now in order to sort of consolidate their viewpoints in the post-Trump era. So I think some of this is absolutely natural. But, I think that if we're going to have these conversations, we ought to be at least honest about what it is that we believe.
When we launched our first bit of trigonometry merch, we learned very quickly how importantly accurate.
I don't care, brother.
But what people like Fuentes and other people have done so well, in my opinion, is they've tapped into that.
Oh, for sure.
Where people felt like you couldn't laugh at this joke or that joke. And Fuentes has just opened the door and gone, you know what? Let's say the retard word as many times as we want and whatever else it may be, and it's going to be a free-for-all. And when you've been constrained for that long, that feels really invigorating.
I do think that there's a transgressive side of the conservative movement right now that's really just enjoying, like, flexing in the new freedom of the Trump era. I think that's for sure true. The danger, I think, is that, you know, Chesterton, I think, was talked about the idea that actual authentic belief systems can be destroyed with an ounce of cynicism, and basically trollery is a form of cynicism very often. And so, funny is funny, but it is also true that funny doesn't build things. Funny tends to destroy things. Funny does not tend to build things. And I think that the impulse toward humor it can be awesome. We all love to laugh. We all like a good joke. And there are many different types of jokes, right? I mean, there's
Yeah, I love a good joke. I'm a big humor guy. You know what I don't fucking like is the White House tweeting out memes constantly during the shutdown. That's not the place for that. That's not funny. That shit's sad, man. Y'all are goofy. Get in the fucking Senate. Get in there and fucking lead. Do something. You lazy motherfucker. Stop tweeting. Stop memeing.
Jokes that poke fun at human frailty, and then there are jokes that are designed to legitimately tear other people down and harm them. And they're not all quite the same. But I think that one thing that's happened is that terrible views very often are shielded with this sort of like, well, am I joking? Am I trolling? Am I not really trolling? And the answer is, if the outcome is the same, then I'm not sure why I'm supposed to pretend that it's okay just because you're joking when you sometimes say it and sometimes don't.
I mean, regardless, if they get their way, the trolls get their way, one day they're going to wake up and realize it's not so fucking funny, bro. It's not so fucking funny when people are standing in bread lines and you can't feed your family. It's not so fucking funny when there's no jobs because the wealthy are taking all of the homes away from you. You can't afford a home because they're replacing you with AI because they're shipping your jobs out to other countries. Like, none of that shit is fucking funny. You not being able to live a happy and secure life and do things and have children that you can support and go places and travel the world, that's not fucking funny. You living a diminished life as a corporate wage slave, that's not fucking funny. But Nick Fuentes thinks it is.
That's a really profound point, because we've seen more and more comedians come on and give, public opinions about subjects as complicated as the Middle East and other, the war in
Russia. There's this clown nose on, clown nose off thing that's been going on with the entire comedian world really since Jon Stewart, and I think that's bad. I think if comedians want to be...
You leave Jon Stewart's name out of your mouth, bro, okay? You don't talk on Jon Stewart. He's the last one we have left after everybody went over and did that fucking comedy tour in Saudi Arabia. He's the only one we got left. I think him and Jimmy Kimmel, but Jimmy Kimmel's ass.
Be comedians, they should be comedians, and then we should stop pretending that they are experts in foreign policy or domestic policy. And if, somebody wants to, like, I make jokes on my show, I'm not a comedian. And so you should take seriously the views that I express as my own views. My problem is when I can't tell what is your view and what isn't, and when you hide behind the humor to say, it's not really my view, it's just humor, and then when you're caught, the clown nose goes back on. That just seems fundamentally dishonest to me.
And do you think as well, Trump sort of ushered this in, didn't he? Because the first time we saw him in 2016, I remember watching him in the debates going, this guy's a comedian, because the entire purpose of a comedian really is to be disruptive. It's to disrupt the status quo. And that's very much what Trump did.
I think for sure. And I think that was the problem that many of us who were sort of traditionally in politics had with President Trump during his first presidential run. And then he got to be president, and, you got to see what he did when he was actually president. And so what I used to say during his first term is, well, now that he's president...
Yeah, I hate how rude he is and how crass he is and how he doesn't have decorum. But I love all of his fucking racist policies and all his warmongering and war crimes and burning the Constitution and fucking up people's Fourth Amendment rights and First Amendment rights and suing all kinds of companies and making money off of being in the government. I love all that shit. It's just he's so rude. If he would just, be more politician-like and less himself.
I can judge him based on the thing that he's doing, not just the thing that he's saying. And I think most Americans came to that conclusion, right? So now, at the beginning of his presidency, do you remember how every evening news broadcast started with a Trump tweet? Like every single one. It's like, he tweeted this today, and I just can't believe he tweeted this today. And within about 6 months, everybody's like, okay, so he tweeted a thing, like, cool. And now we don't even pay attention when he tweets a thing, right? And in fact, he has to have like a sign off, thank you for your attention to this matter, so we know that he's not trolling, right? But like, I think that that's because we got to see him in practice. The problem is with people who, you know, are in the business of viewpoint, you don't actually get to see what their practice looks like. All you have is the rhetoric. So now I'm supposed to judge whether when, you know, Nick Fuentes says Team Hitler, does he actually like Hitler, or is he just joking about liking Hitler? And what is the practical difference between joking about liking Hitler over and over and over and also espousing Hitlerian beliefs and actually just liking Hitler? Like, and at what point does the onus, why is the onus on the viewer as opposed to on him to clarify what it is that he thinks?
Well, speaking of judging people on what they're doing, how do you feel about President Trump's term so far?
I think it's a mixed bag. I mean, he's done a lot of things that I think are great. I mean, I think that his foreign policy overall has been very, very good. I think that he has justified my faith that he was going to be a peace through strength president and not a full-scale isolationist president, as some people seem to think that he was, which I thought was always projection based on his term one. I think that, you know, when it comes to domestic policy, obviously closing the border is a massive accomplishment, and he did it essentially the first day, thus falsifying all of the talk about how you need a new piece of legislation in order to do that. I've been very critical of the tariffs. I think the tariffs are uncalibrated and poor economic policy that are not truly designed to achieve the effect that either he wants or that he is seeking. And you know,
the problem is tariffs can be effective if they're targeted and very limited at certain manufacturing processes that we already have here that we want to boost in this country. The issue here is that they're wide-sweeping tariffs that are just used as a cudgel and a beating stick on other countries when there's no manufacturing base tied to it. We're not building the factories. The factories that were supposed to be built, they're not coming. We're not doing any of the things that you have to support your own economy to boost up all of those things to be bought and made here, instead of outsourcing them from other countries, because now that is a tax on the American people and why we're paying so much more for goods and why coffee's more expensive. So it's just stupid. It's just dumb economic policy from people that don't understand economics, which, to be fair to them, nobody understands economics, especially economists.
I think that we can go down the list of issues. Overall, I think he's a very effective president in a way that I think many people didn't think that he could be. I mean, he's moving very quickly. He's doing many, many things. Whether you like him or you hate him, there's no question that he has been a transformative figure in American politics. And so on an effectiveness level, he's extremely effective. On a policy level, I would say I agree with probably 75% of what he's doing. And there's 25% I don't agree with. And then there's stuff that I just don't think that he was ever going to do. Whenever people, like, he should rhetorically unify the country. Where have you been for 10 years? I mean, like you know, come on. Or you know, he should really be more statesman-like. Like, okay, you know, like these are now old debates and they're in the past.
Do you have any concerns around, I mean, we had Sam Harris on the show recently. That episode hasn't gone out yet, but it will. He talked a lot about...
Wow, these guys just interview all the worst fucking people in the world, don't they?
The way some of the ICE operations have been conducted, people showing up in masks, not identifying them.
What do you mean? ICE operations have gone by swimmingly. There hasn't been a single issue that I've heard of, I think, probably.
Themselves, arresting U.S. citizens, etc. Did you have any concerns about that?
I mean, I think that we'd have to look at each individual case, and I'm sure I could find cases where I'd have concerns. You know, I think that overall, the detention of criminally illegal immigrants, which seems to be largely the people who are being targeted, is a very good thing. I think that
that's just straight up not true. The criminal element would have been completely eliminated at this point and exported to another country if that was the case. They're not going after just criminals. They're going after everybody that is brown skin. It's a racist fucking brigade.
You could certainly find cases, I'm sure, where ICE acted badly or where they didn't provide properly for the rights of the people who they are taking into custody, or they got it wrong and arrested somebody who's a citizen.
No, Ben, not you can find a couple cases, like literally every day. There's multiple videos, multiple incidents where ICE and federal agents are overstepping their bounds and injuring fucking local police officers and injuring disabled people and injuring citizens who don't have any fucking reason to be touched by ICE. it's fucking ridiculous out there, and to say anything different is cope.
When they meant to arrest an illegal immigrant non-citizen, for example.
And very briefly, because we're running out of time, you have another media engagement you have to run to. We haven't talked about Israel, despite the fact that you're accused of only talking about Israel.
Yes, always. Yeah.
I was wondering, we got to a point where I thought President Trump achieved an incredible thing, which is the release of the Israeli hostages. And that was based on the idea of a much broader plan.
How is that going? Did that go according to plan? Did Hamas and the Palestinians and the Israeli government all come to terms and now they're singing Kumbaya? Is that what happened?
And whose objective was to disarm and dismantle Hamas and secure peace in a very complicated structure. That hasn't transpired. Are you optimistic that there will be some kind of long-term solution to the Middle East, or is it just going to run for another 70 years?
Well, I mean, I think that, conflicts between radical Islamists and others in the Middle East is likely to continue for, the rest of human history. But if you're talking about like the explicit what happened in Gaza issue, I think that the triumph was stage one. Stage two was always sort of, the maybe phase of the Trump plan. The reality is that what has happened with the freeing of those hostages, it means that.
What about stage 3 and 4, Ben? What stage is the Trump casino on the Gaza Strip? What stage is that? Because I think that stage is in the plans. I think that's part of the whole thing.
Now, Israel is not on tenterhooks, obviously, about living people being held in tunnels. And beyond that, there's sort of a yellow line that's essentially been established in the Gaza Strip that's currently being administered by the IDF, and that eventually is supposed to be transferred over to the control of some sort of international security force. Presumably, there will be vast humanitarian aid in that area. Rebuilding funds are going in. I know people who are actually actively working on construction in that area right now to build housing and all the rest, and maybe turn that into like an actual decent place to live. As far as the area that's sort of the interior of the Gaza Strip that is currently essentially a war between Hamas and a wide variety of
sort of rubble
clans. The thing that's kind of ridiculous about this whole war is that the yelling at the IDF about human rights violations, and it's only the IDF is terrible. It's just awful. Well, I noticed that the minute that the IDF pulled out of those areas, Hamas just started pulling people out of their houses and shooting them in the head, and everybody went completely silent about all of that. And now they're saying, well, we certainly can't allow the IDF to go back in there. We have to have an international security force. Well, cool. I mean, I think that the Israelis would love nothing better than for the UAE and the Saudis and the Indonesians to put a security force in there. The question is why precisely those countries would want to do that.
Well, they wouldn't, because they'd all be killed.
Right,
well,
exactly.
not all, but they would end up in the same position as IDF.
That's right.
Fighting
And so I
war.
think that one of the things that's been exposed by the sort of deal at the end of the war is the harsh reality of the Middle East, which is if there is no police force in areas that are governed by terrorists, then terrorists tend to govern those areas. And this bizarre idea that if you just pull out magically, things are going to spring up and replace them. We'll see whether that happens or not. But certainly the Middle East is in a significantly better.
Yeah, we definitely won't, pull out of somewhere and then increase the rule of the Taliban and ISIS. And I'm sorry, I meant of Hamas. My bad.
Situation and position than it was before President Trump's late stage intervention in the Gaza war.
Have you been surprised, Ben, by the events and what's happened in the UK surrounding the pro-Palestine demonstrations and the just general anti-Semitism, let's be honest?
I wish I could say that I was surprised. I feel like that's been a long time in exploding. The Islamic population, particularly in areas like London or Manchester, where you have very high levels of Islamic immigration, the history of Europe tends to show that when you have very high levels of Islamic immigration in particular areas, those areas tend to become more lawless, more violent, more anti-Semitic. And that's true across Europe.
I just noticed his hand is extremely still. It's just been in that same position for so long. It's kind of freaking me out a little bit.
It's not just true in Britain. It is true in France. It is true in the Netherlands. It's true legitimately everywhere. And the one area where apparently it's safe to be Jewish is
he
Hungary,
moved it. Okay,
where
thank
they
God.
decided that they weren't going to allow mass Islamic immigration into the country and are currently paying, I believe, €1 million a day in fines to the EU in order to maintain their current border status. So, no, I'm not surprised by that at all. I continue to be, I would say bemused at best by the fellow traveling of the left with this sort of red-green alliance. that has happened, in which it's like, well, we're all on the same side because we oppose the system together. And well, that may be a convenient coalition for the moment, but I promise you that at the end of this road, there's going to be some pretty significant disagreement.
Absolutely. Ben, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. Final question is always the same. What's the one thing we're not talking about that we really should be?
I think we actually talked about it. I think that the generalized lack of political voices speaking to the vast opportunity available to young people in America and in the West, and their capacity to actually get ahead if they make good decisions, that lack is being direly felt, and it's having its ramifications across all of politics, foreign and international.
Well, there was one person who did do that very effectively, and he was taken from us. Do you see somebody else stepping up? Because I guess Charlie was...
Yeah, the person that's stepping up and filling that vacuum on the right is Nick Fuentes. You've already said his name too many times. If you say it one more time, he's going to appear behind you and he's going to take your soul. Stop saying it.
Charlie was the person who was holding this whole groyping thing at bay in many ways. And a new person needs to emerge for that role, surely.
I mean, I think a lot of people need to emerge for that role. I think one of the big mistakes is thinking that any one person can replace any one person, but it's going to require a lot of voices to push back what I think are evil and nefarious views.
Ben, thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
All right, well, that was kind of interesting. I don't mind hearing from Ben Shapiro, to be honest. He's got some relatively sane takes sometimes for a person that considers themselves a conservative on the right, compared to a lot of the other fucking voices that are being belted out right now, including the groypers. I wanted to get his kind of side of it because as I predicted, it would be a little bit more sane and coherent to watch than getting Nick Fuentes' side of it, which I've already heard Nick Fuentes yelling at me about his hatred for Ben Shapiro in this whole situation. So I'm glad that I watched that and got Ben's side of the story because I don't know. I don't think he got destroyed necessarily as much as some people are making it out to be. With that being said, I'm going to move on to the final segment of my Veterans Day stream, which is going to be a good old-fashioned Psychic War reading from the Smug blog. So let me see if I can make this window a little bit bigger, though. Oh, no, I'm going to have to change the ratio. Let's see. Hold on. See, how do we, there we go, filters. This is set up for video, it's not set up for a reading. So let me see if I can widen the scope just a little bit here. Bam! Wow, that already did so much. Look at us go. So I haven't done one of these in a while, but for those that don't know, this is the blog of Smugbug, this little snail guy here, now a defunct streamer. He failed at Twitch poll, he failed at streaming, he gave up. He's a sad little slug guy, but sometimes he has some good ideas when he writes, and so we're gonna analyze his new meta blog in the Psychic War vein of his writing. This one's called How to Change Minds When Debate is Dead. Debate was dead long before Charlie Kirk was shot in the neck. Jesus Christ, we're starting strong. There has never existed a genuine marketplace of ideas where tabula rasa, rational actors approached a mimetic battlefield ready to hear out all sides and come to the best argued conclusion. It was always a pretender to praxis. If you're skeptical, I ask you recall the argument that shifted significantly in the way you desire in others one of your current positions. In your heart of hearts, do you believe you were reprogrammed by a perfectly strung together argument, promptly conceded and adopted the new position? No. You experience an unpleasant encounter with a member of your own in-group, or a new entertaining content sphere, or a new community, or something more profound. Your behaviors changed in some meaningful way, and your belief system followed. So yeah, I don't know about that. I would say one of the big things that I try to go by is that I'm done trying to convince anybody of anything. Don't think that I'm trying to convince you of how you should live your life or what you should believe. Nobody can do that. Only you can do that. I think all of the times that I've arrived at new positions or changed my worldview radically, it wasn't because somebody forced it down my throat. It was because I myself was open to new positions or a new way of thinking and sought it out myself. I don't think that it can be grafted onto you. Let's continue. It is well enough studied, I feel no need to cite it, that people adopted the beliefs that are convenient to them, maintaining beliefs that help them preserve their status, relationships, and material wealth, as well as their personal psychostructural schema. Policy prescriptions, large and small, take smoking bans for example, impose on a disgruntled population frequently, indeed usually, find themselves more popular after they have been undemocratically enacted on the populace. Troubling implications for democracy aside, we are confident that people change their beliefs after they change their behaviors and circumstances. This has far more troubling implications for online discourse. Well, yeah, online discourse is 10 times more toxic than anything you're going to experience out in the real world talking to people. The ultimate reality of the online debate sphere was to engage in contest of personality, ultimately unrelated to the power of ideas. Over time, it became less convenient for audiences to support losing personalities and more convenient to support winning ones. Ignorant, naive, or selfish creators unwittingly engage in this atmosphere, while cynical and pragmatic ones understood that the real prize was accumulating a fan base that could then be gradually converted via the only real method of changing hearts and minds that scales cheaply, interpersonal relationships, or their nearest available simulacra, online community. So yeah, I think this is getting at the fact that a lot of people who got into the debate sphere or the political sphere, they stopped being about the ideas and the actual things that they cared about. They're not principled people, and it became more about this personality contest, aura wars, just trying to have the best rhetoric, regardless of what that rhetoric is tied to principally or where it comes from, dunking on people, all of this shit that doesn't actually help you arrive at truth or come to good conclusions about how to live in the world. Since the importance of ideas, policies, political positions were unrelated to the actual game of status jousting, there was never a real need to remain fixed to a shared reality. To their uncharacteristically unfortunate detriment, god damn, Smug, I don't like the way you word this shit sometimes. To the uncharacteristically unfortunate detriment, liberals tend to maintain a position in shared consensus reality, the accumulation of objective positions backed by institutions like academia, government, and expert opinion. The right wing, and to a certain extent the far left, do not suffer from these same constraints, and eventually the establishment defenders of liberalism were overwhelmed, unable to do anything but signal inwardly to their existing base in order to accumulate power while achieving no actual change in the world. Yeah, so that makes sense to me as well, that the liberal view helps you feel good about yourself without actually having any good outcomes. You feel like you're a good person, you're doing the good things, and you have the right enlightened views, but ultimately, what are your views leading to in the world? Does it actually put good in the world? Whereas being online also, he's talking about it blurs the line of consensus reality. It's a lot easier online to have small niche groups that agree with your certain worldview and make you feel like it's more legitimate than it actually is. So I agree with that. The savviest ideological operators on both sides then change tactics. Oh, great. Rather than compete for the same small subset of terminally online viewers, you should instead turn your base into ideological warriors, capable of becoming force multipliers for your ideas. 10,000 viewers are utterly inconsequential. 10,000 cultural warriors, each speaking to the dozens of people they come into daily contact with, is suddenly a serious movement. But we then arrive at one fundamental misunderstanding of the space. Online debates between creators are nothing like persuasively convincing people in the real world. Worse still, the psychological makeup of the majority of these culture warriors, while useful, is uniquely distinct from the actual population one would want to influence in crucial ways. Yeah, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. I don't think I need to break that down very much. Oh, Jesus. The autistic mode. This is where it's probably going to go off the rails, chat. I'm not going to lie. It is no coincidence that a huge number of the people who participate in these spaces are, if not literally autistic, operating in an extremely autistic mode. In the same sense, one might be operating in a schizophrenic mode. I have been known to flippantly declare that autism is evil, and while I maintain the bit, the more nuanced explanation is that the autistic mode of analysis both reinforces and is highly compatible with the worst excesses of our current cultural, social, economic systems. It is a rigid mode of thinking, emphasizing categorization, hierarchy, and objective, root, factful interpretation of any given event. In speaking to many autistic people in this space, I have found commonalities in their frustration that regular people just don't get it, or lack of critical thinking skills. They are terribly frustrated that anyone can support a man like Donald Trump, who not only lies, but self-contradicts in loud and obvious ways. They see truth and fact as inherently virtuous, and anyone who opposes them as inherently subversive to a positive formation of society. Okay, yeah, so autistic people are autistic. I don't know what to tell you there. I do think that there's something to be said here about not everybody being autistic but calling themselves autistic online. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of people online that are in fact autistic. But there's also people that just have autistic tendencies or fall into certain autistic frames of view because of how much time they spend online in these spaces. And it doesn't help their mode of analysis. I believe the most important reason for this is that in a world that is very difficult and unpleasant to navigate for the autistic or the undersocialized, debate becomes a genuinely useful and productive mode of communicating with other people. It can get you far in your career, again, generally only in ways that reinforce the worst elements of our current systems. It can help you overcome social anxieties and awkwardness. It can help you become more cool media personalities and characters like Dr. House, Ben Shapiro, Destiny, and Elon Musk. It can help you become more like cool media personality characters like Dr. House, Ben Shapiro, Destiny, and Elon Musk. That is a collection of names. I don't know how they're tied together, or that I would call any of these people cool media personalities. Are these supposed to be autistic people? I'm confused. Anyway, men with money, power, respect, and women. Okay, Elon Musk women is a technicality. He doesn't actually have sex with them. Dr. House, yeah, he slays. Ben Shapiro has a wife, which apparently he's never seen a WAP before, so we know how that's going. And Destiny doesn't believe in consent, so these aren't exactly the best role models for power, respect, in women. I don't know. Continuing. Online debate is one of the few remaining modern routes of socialization and a mode of analysis that follows rigid rules, hierarchies, and categorizations. Giving this up is painful. No one wants to regress to the point where they feel like an outcast again. Yeah, but the problem is that debate, and especially online debate, not necessarily academic structured debate, but online debate, the way that it has been going for the past 10 years online with the blood sports and the Twitch poll and all that shit, it is not a good tool to get to truth. That's not what it's about. It's an aura game. It's about scoring points. It's not about figuring out the best way to live your life. And it's just a big waste of time. That's why I stopped watching blood sports and all these debates and the right versus the left and these dark woke and all. I stopped watching all of it because it's just not a good tool for me to form my worldview around. And it's boring. I guess if that's your thing, I just grew out of it. Continuing, I sympathize, but this mode of analysis and communication has done irreparable harm to society. The autistic mode is a dehumanizing, atomizing, and spiky approach to worldview development that creates insurmountable incompatibilities with other people and communities, yielding an end stage of extreme individualism. It is no coincidence that hardline libertarians are the community who have most encouraged debate as the mode of communication between opposing ideologies, with the express purpose of exposing such incompatibilities that the only solution is to endorse the idea that every man is a state. The internet, a culture initially built and dominated by libertarians with these ideals, was very much built around this worldview. Now that the internet is integrated into the average child's development, this influence is deeply ingrained offline as well. Yeah, I don't have anything to say about that. Most people acknowledge that the increase in ADHD diagnosis is influenced by the modern culture modes and productions that are clearly reshaping human development. Child consuming highly dopaminergic short-form video. It is less obviously observable that the same is occurring for autism, but it is. Rigid institutionalism, single truth categorization, fetishization. What is happening in chat? Thank you for your service, sir. Oh, thank you, Scarlet Flames. I appreciate you. If you want, you can give me a follow. That'd be awesome. Otherwise, just keep listening to the schizophrenic slug's philosophy. But rigid institutionalism, single truth categorization, fetishization of IQ or over EQ, and structural systems prioritizing quantitative over qualitative understanding have trained a generation to lean into their autistic modes of navigating the world in order to become the specialized laborers and alienated consumers ideal for a complex economy pursuing infinite growth. These autistics are a highly valuable labor force because they prefer a rigid hierarchy to perform within, constructed by someone else, though they are frequently blind to this. But once established, they will execute this with great force and consistency. So yeah, I would say one thing about this is that it's kind of gender specific, to be honest, because I've heard from autistic females and autistic males that it's very different the way that their autistic traits allow them to function in society because of their gender roles. It's easier for males to get ahead with their autistic traits because they're kind of seen that those are good things for them to succeed and get ahead, whereas women that have autistic traits not necessarily seen the same way because of what society expects from them out of their gender. So that's an interesting aspect of this and how it fits into the hierarchy. Because autistic women get the shit end of the stick, unfortunately. For the same reasons, they are also lethally effective culture warriors. Oh yeah, here we go. Guerrilla warfare. Culturally. We find ourselves then with a very particular hierarchy in this mimetic space. There exists a pool of potential culture warriors that must themselves be won over in order to benefit the force multiplier of their advocacy. Importantly, the way that these culture warriors are themselves won over is very different to how someone should convince the general public. Online debate is an opt-in system, an intellectual sport like chess, and many of them many of the most successful people in the space are surrounded only by those who have opted into the conceits of the system. They are heavily encouraged both economically and socially to perform in this specific way, even though they themselves are not always operating in the autistic mode. Indeed, the best are generally much more well-rounded than their viewers. Unfortunately, as they develop their audiences, their feedback mechanisms become highly... Okay, now it just sounds like you're talking about specific people, Smug. I think I know what you're getting into here, and it's unfortunate. But yeah, they develop their audiences, their feedback mechanisms become highly dependent on their performance relative to the metrics of this online debate game. Initially, around the beginning of Trump's first term, this actually functioned fairly well. Liberalism was the dominant cultural force, institutions were fairly well regarded, and all ideologies essentially had to acquiesce in some respect to the liberal conceit that reality is accurately and singularly defined by institutions, experts, and democratic governance. Yeah, and now that worldview has been destroyed, hopefully liberals are learning that the only thing that matters is narrative, apparently. You can throw as many stats and studies and graphs at people as you want. It's not going to change their worldview. You have to have a good narrative attached to it as well. Over time, both through the rise of the far right and actual governance and continuous pressure over the weakness and contradictions of liberalism, the right was able to make crucial cultural gains and begin abandoning this consensus reality defined by liberal institutions. Thought-terminating memetics like fake news became sufficient to disregard the liberal frame, and this left online debate in its precarious position. The right wing was well versed in operating within the liberal frame in order to eke out small victories here and there, while liberals enjoyed the dominant narrative and establishment backing. When right wing culture began to suppress the liberal status quo, we found ourselves in a situation where a highly optimized mimetic predator hit critical mass and utterly overwhelmed the existing ecosystem. Yeah, and which is why the left needs to go back to being counterculture again. We need to be punks again. We need to be anti-establishment, anti-government, anti-military again. I don't know what happened to the left, how they got co-opted into corporate shill freaks, but that shit needs to go, brother. Let's continue. Now we have liberals who don't know how to operate in any frame other than our own, either totally black-pilled and disengaged, fuck you smug, fighting the left over tougher targets, or clinging to the delusion that liberal institutions are still dominant and will hold in the face of an authoritarian regime, dismantling them. Up against the right wing forged in hostile territory, eager to exercise their newfound power. I think we're seeing right now that the liberal institutions are not going to fucking save us from the horrors of fascism and authoritarianism. The Supreme Court is a joke, and they've given up power, and the House is a complete rubber stamp, so it doesn't matter. All of the stopgaps and the guardrails that are supposed to protect us in this situation are gone. The only thing left is the people, but the people have not yet started to give a fuck. Some of the liberalism's suppressive tactics have come back to haunt them here. Deplatforming and forcing the right wing into private, less visible places gave them the perfect substrate to experiment and develop more complex and effective mimetic weapons within. By contrast, the more publicly accepted far left often has its novel, half-formed, and naive cultural products immediately seized, magnified, and crystallized by right-wing media conglomerates. This forced leftists to either defend a half-finished and often bad idea, cede territory, or ineffectually attempt to make the complicated, nuanced argument I'm making now to a lay audience in a hostile, fast-paced environment. The far right benefited from stealthily developing ideas and tactics in private, sallying out to make attacks into the open field, and retreating to iterate out of view. What is this sentence, Smug? A guerrilla war America has lost in the past. Okay. How to lose debates and influence people. If you also believe that debates are ineffective in the modern day, that's me, perhaps for the reasons other than those I've outlined above, then you may find the following useful. If you believe debates have a utility and merit today, and that with rational discourse and the right argumentation you can win over the average American, I will take my own advice, cease to attempt to convince you otherwise, and wish you luck. That's fair. At a fundamental level, rationalizations follow feeling. Feelings are powerful and useful tools of pattern recognition, compressing vast amounts of incomprehensibly complex data into a format that is mostly correct most of the time for most people. Importantly, feelings are driven by incentives. Here we go into the libidinal economy. This is intuitive. You encounter noxious stimuli and feel pain to motivate you to retreat from it. You feel hunger to motivate you to pursue food. You feel to compel you to act. Humans are efficiently lazy and will avoid hard work, like changing their psychological structures in efficient ways. I'd always argue this is a different form of rationality, but most people who advocate for rationalism tend to be dismissive of these irrational justifications. Nevertheless, in this reality you operate in, if you cannot provide someone an incentive structure to change their beliefs, they will not change their beliefs. Okay? The first lesson to take from this is to never make it difficult for someone to change their beliefs. So this is where we're getting into his psychic war tactics of not being confrontational and pretending like you're one of the in-group. This sounds obvious, and yet without fail, debate bros fixate on winning and extracting a humiliating emotional and social cost from everybody they supposedly aim to convince. What's your goal? Are you here to change minds, or are you here to win status? It's a good point. You can be honest with yourself. You don't have to tell anyone. Perhaps you wish to earn status now to change minds later. By accumulating power, you get to incentivize people directly to change. Totally valid, but very frequently one is mistaken for the other. In this framework, if your goal is to change the mind, then your objective in many ways should be to lose the debate. You must pay your opponent something in order to incentivize their change. And if most debaters want to win more than anything else, there are certainly ways to change someone's position while losing. In fact, the best case scenario here would be for your opponent to gradually take ownership of your position until they claim it was theirs all along, especially to their own audience. I've used this technique frequently myself, offering people with very strong incentives and drives exactly what they want of me in exchange for achieving my stated goals. We're just consequentialists around here, okay? There are others like Fuentes. God damn it, we said his name again. Now he's gonna fucking steal my soul. I know it. He's coming for me tonight, chat. We said his name too many times. Others like you-know-who will create memes like "your body, my choice" to give white liberal women the precise enemy they crave, reacting to in order to gain mainstream prominence. Or MAGA, who gave Democrats the exact deplorables they wanted. So much so that Democrats frequently funded the most extreme candidates on the other side, supposedly to weaken their electoral odds. Getting free media attention in spades. In the liberal frame, these always look like losses. Surely, the massive backlash against Fuentes or horror at MAGA's worst excesses means these were self-destructive. Yet they continue to win the electorate and greater mainstream power year by year. Fuentes is on his greatest generational run of media appearances, from PBD to Red Scare to Tucker Carlson to date. And so once again, never make it difficult for someone to change their beliefs, or alternately, always offer someone an incentive to change their beliefs. At a more advanced level, offer your opponents an incentive to make a mistake. How to read minds. That's quite a left turn. As far as this goes, yeah, I mean, I don't really vibe with this tactic. I get the inherent idea behind it and not being all debate bro about it and trying to dunk on somebody and just trying to get them to move positions. But I don't think that's ever going to occur in a debate. I just like having discussions. Let's have a discussion. I do that shit in chat all the time. People are fighting back and forth, having debate wars, and I'll interrupt it and just have what I consider a conversation. It's not a debate. Let's just talk about it. It's a very different incentive structure, especially when you don't have an audience, which is kind of the problem. Having an audience for these things automatically turns it into, now it's an aura war, now we're trying to gain money of it and followers and all of that. You should just be having these conversations in private, not caring who is, or if not in private, in small chat rooms where it's not going to be incentivized by other people agreeing with you. You can be wrong. It's okay to be wrong. It's not okay to be wrong in a debate. That's when you get dunked on. You can't be wrong and change your position and learn things in a debate. You can in a discussion. So that's why I'm interested in having discussions with people instead of fucking stupid blood sports debates. You want to dunk on me? Go for it, brother. I do not care. But I would like to talk to you about something interesting, maybe. All right. Next part. How to read minds. But how do we know their incentives genuinely? This is where we come to our second lesson. Don't be smug. To understand someone's incentives, you must genuinely understand them. Every moment you waste arguing over institutional definitions for phrases like they're using, like critical race theory or the buzzword of the moment, is time that should be spent understanding what they mean by critical race theory. As the information environment has siloed into various echo chambers, so has language, and your definition is not more valuable or important than theirs. Certainly not now that they are in power. So when you declare their underlying support for the Constitution, and you bristle certain in the knowledge that they are lying, understand what they mean by it. What values do they feel are being represented by their Constitution? What incentivizes them to declare allegiance to it? For God's sake, know the actual answer to the question, why did they say that? Yeah, and I'm sure they have a very confused and babbling reason for why they can rationalize their views with the Constitution, but that doesn't make it any less ahistorical. Ask yourself the important questions about what they are trying to achieve. Then formulate a plan of action to provide it for them in exchange for them changing their position. You'll be astonished how quickly their desire for status supersedes the desire for them to convince you of their position. If you're willing to look like an idiot and make them the hero for adopting your position, this is a fair exchange of emotional or social capital for cultural capital. I do agree with that. If this is a tactic that you want to adopt and you think this is something that jives with you and you can get it done, I say go for it. It's just not my mode of operation. I don't know, maybe I'm autistic. Never forget that there is a reason you are in this community, and it is probable that they are there for similar reasons. The things you most want and least want to give up are the same things they most want and least want to give up. Not only does this mean you have insights into their mindset, but if you have the excess supply of these things, hopefully born out of your very stable, grass-touching lifestyle, happy home life, successful career, hobbies, and friends. Hey, I said that earlier. Look, me and Smug agreeing on something. It's beautiful. Then you will be able to trade these emotional, social, egoic concessions for them adopting pieces of your worldview. Yeah, I have all of these things. I have a very stable life. I have a great marriage. I have a home. I have a great job. I touch a lot of grass. I have many hobbies. I'm not online all the time. And that allows me to not have an ego about any of this online space bullshit. Like, I don't care what aura you want to farm. I'm not here for that. It just doesn't affect me. I've got other things to fall back on that provide me with confidence and the ego boost that I need in life. That's not going to come from online. None of your people's opinions matter, mine included. Why should I? Yeah, I don't want to. I really don't. You don't have to. Great. Oh my God. I love it. If you have a comfortable position in group signaling to your community in exchange for local status gains amongst that group, have at it. If anything, the understanding that you are merely playing a status game is a huge advantage. You may very well have lost to these people and been disturbed and frustrated that you got your ass handed to you despite an adherence to the strict rigor of debate, rationality, and logic. Status signaling is a natural function of socialization and everybody does it. I'm doing it right now. It's basically impossible to avoid. Pretending to yourself that you aren't doing it will oftentimes make you worse at it. Interesting. I don't know. I think that you can signal to your in-group your principles and your intentions and what you stand for without it being somehow a natural function. Well, yeah, I think the problem is that socialization online and socialization in the real world are so fucking different, but people treat them as if they're the same. That's the problem. That's what I'm trying to get at. If, however, you have a genuine ideological project, a genuine desire to change minds, change the world, and make things better for people you care about, whether trans people, the poor people, white race, these are valuable tools to adopt that will make you more effective at doing so. What's my incentive? I just want to help, of course. All right, well, I mean, he has good points throughout, per usual, but I definitely don't agree with the overarching tactic that he has adopted. I understand that the institutions and liberalism and statistics and science and factual shared reality have failed in the past, but I'm just not ready to take on a tactic of adopting other people's worldviews or conceding to their worldviews in order to get the outcome that I want. But if you are, maybe this is the strategy for you, and you can read all about more of this at the Ponscum Collective blog. Otherwise, I am done for the night. That was the end of my Veterans Day. I'm glad that we could end it with some Schizo Smug blog for old time's sake. He doesn't drop many of those anymore. But every time he does, I'm going to read them because I'm the only person that does. And they're fun to analyze and joke about. And hopefully he watches this and then he can get pissed. But thank you for being here. If you're still here, thank you for joining me on Veterans Day. I'm sad at the direction that this country is going. This is not why I serve the country or the Constitution or the people. And I hope that the 65% of veterans that voted for this motherfucker wake up, lock in, and... All right. Cheers. Have a good one.